All right, should we kick off? We're live.
Go. Let's do it.
All right, welcome to episode 7 of the European Tech Show. We have got a amazing lineup today. Roland, do you want to talk us through some of the guests?
Yeah, absolutely. So, deep dive on the guests today. We are looking at, let me get them all up. Aidan Rushby, CEO at Carmoola. Henry Palmer, founder and managing partner at Lightridge. Sten Saar, founder at Zego. Justin Basini, co-founder and CEO at ClearScore. Kitty Mayo, CEO of Project Europe. Liam Fuller, co-founder at Source. And we're also talking about some hot news topics today. Luke, if you want to cover those.
Yeah. So we have lots to cover, but not too much time. So we're going to rush through these a little bit. 11 Labs conversational agents page, NAIs, raised at a $1.5 billion valuation. Fuse Energy is now a unicorn, which is quite exciting, obviously. We're going to talk about some fun stuff as well. The interim astronomer CMO, which is Gwyneth Paltrow. I think that's quite funny. So we've got a few tweets that we can whittle through at the moment. Anthropic raised at a $170 billion valuation. Pretty insane. Other stuff, T-App. We've got lots going on.
Well, let's dig into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
And before we kind of get into it, should we just shout out to our sponsors? Checkout.com, one of the biggest fintechs across Europe, one of the most exciting companies of the last 10 years, global payment provider. They just announced a partnership with Visa today, which is super exciting. I'll be posting about it on LinkedIn as well, so check that out. And of course, Spectre.
Be the reason your fund wins the deal of the decade. Harness the power of live data and AI-driven analysis to outsmart the competition and make confident decisions in private markets.
Some
amazing
sponsors. And
we are here live 110 with Aidan, CEO of Carmoola. Welcome, Aidan, to the show.
Hey guys, nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you, Aidan.
We are thrilled to have you. So I think just to kick off, can you give us a quick intro into who you are and what Carmoola is?
Yeah, I am a serial entrepreneur. This is my second business I've now built, and Carmoola is a direct-to-consumer car finance lender that makes it easier, cheaper, and faster for consumers to get finance. So you can get it sorted before you go to the dealership and not get ripped off by all the big commissions and untransparent process that I'm sure we're all aware of.
Amazing. So was that some of the primary motivations behind founding Carmoola?
Yeah, there was a couple of motivations. I've always been super passionate about helping consumers, especially when I see that something is a bit opaque or a bit, what I would say is a bit strange or a bit dodgy. And when I looked at the kind of car finance industry, there was a lot of big commissions being paid. It was very opaque. It was very kind of on digital and pretty poor kind of customer experience. And I just felt compelled to help them, and I really wanted to build a better way of doing it. And that was similar to my previous business, but yeah, I just love helping consumers, and anything that kind of makes it better for them, I'm on board and super keen to help.
Amazing. We love to hear it. You mentioned there that this is like your second business. I believe your first business, Move Bubble. What's it like founding a second time round? What are you doing differently this time, I guess?
So much easier, if I'm honest. I think so much easier. I think I spent seven, nearly 8 years on my last business, probably making every mistake possible. First time founder, didn't know really what you're doing, and you're learning as you go. And as I kind of went through that process, and when I thought about building Carmoola, I wanted to get it right from day one. So I did a lot more testing, really kind of understanding what is the true size of the market opportunity, and then really like what is the true opportunity and revenue opportunity there. And then I did a lot of testing about how I was going to access that, what the demand for the product was. So I was very, very confident before I'd even started this business that the strategy was going to work. I understood what the economics and the unit economics would be, and use that, and as well as having like incredible people that you want to work with already, like the Amy, who's one of the co-founders, and also my wife, incredible product person, and also Roman and Igor, who are two technical co-founders, worked with them before, and so the team was already basically ready to go. We'd already worked together for a long time, and that kind of just helped accelerate the execution. So I think we delivered so much more. I think we've done more revenue in the first 6 months of launching Carmoola than what we did in 7 years with the previous business. So yeah,
Wow.
a much faster scale.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about, you put a lot of kind of like, the product is built around kind of clarity and like user empowerment. What's the main kind of advice that you give, like growing a business over 20 million ARR, keeping that kind of user-centric approach? Like what's the kind of thing that you're always driving in on?
It's a really good question. I think like ultimately it comes down to the founder and how passionate is the founding team really about delivering customer value. And so we built values from day one, and one of those values is deliver wow. And so we talk a lot to the team about how do you go above and beyond for the consumer, and also like how do you go above and beyond in your just general work. And it's about getting things to sort of 110, 100%. And then it's talking about how do you do that extra 10 or 20% extra to make things incredible for the customer ultimately. And so we use values as core to drive. The office, it's, on the wall there's selfies of all the customers. We're using it all the time. Like the Slack channels are all very open. All of the customer feedback comes in all the time, and it's a big driver of the business. And I think it's also about measuring it as well. So I think our NPS is 94. Wow. You can see the customer reviews are pretty incredible. And even as we've sort of scaled now, we're getting on to sort of 15,000 customers, you're kind of really seeing that consistency. Even like the last couple of weeks have been record week after record week, and you're like tripling volume, and you're still able to deliver that same consistency is really kind of key. And you do that through a lot of the automation of the platform and various bits and pieces.
You talk about automation. What's the, there's so much talk and so much innovation happening in AI agents and stuff at the moment. Like, are you integrating that into, because I imagine there's a lot of like customer support going on, especially with the high value kind of transactions happening. What is your kind of take on the AI agent space, and are you looking into that a lot?
Yes, so like ultimately you need to build like an incredible data infrastructure and making sure the data is super clean. You're capturing a lot of data across the whole business, but we're using it obviously as a lending business. Like, if you're building any level of advanced data models for your underwriting, it's kind of core in terms of what you do anyway. But we're taking it to the next level. So we're using it a lot in acquisition, as we're a direct-to-consumer lender. We're using it to do things like extract the metadata from various different ads that you're doing. So TV ads, radio ads, not TV, like performance ads, all of the kind of colors, all the metadata effectively from that, and then running models on top of that to understand like what drives performance and how that then interlinks with credit risk. So you can get to this like really incredible kind of like customized data experience effectively for the consumer. But we're also using it in customer support where, if we're able to answer the customer's question that they have in a very quick way, then obviously we can do that through various agents. However, like so much of our platform was already automated. It's probably, we don't need to use like AI agents for collections and things like that, as the platform has already kind of been developed from day one, using quite like dynamic payment plans and various other bits and pieces. So I think we only have 6 people in customer support. That includes collections. So very, very kind of low headcount in that space anyway.
Yeah, and you've always stayed lean, I think, right? I think I read somewhere that I think you were talking about the importance of like staying lean, growing smart. Is AI helping you to do that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that we basically have an internal metric where we're using like how much does this task get automated, like how many hours does it cut out? And so therefore you can kind of really focus in on, cutting headcount all the time. It's not necessarily cutting headcount, but enabling you to grow without adding additional people. So I think like we generate sort of close to 300,000, 400,000 pounds per employee, which is a key metric for us. And so ultimately, we'd like to get that to £1 million per employee and beyond. And I think that's really possible with what's going on and how you can really leverage some of this technology.
No, that's amazing. That it's one of those key metrics that's become so much more popular since AI. A lot of the AI companies are reporting on it. I saw a big company called Pops are reporting on hitting $1 million of ARR per employee. Definitely seems like it's becoming more important. I wanted to touch quickly on your fundraising and your raising more generally. You raised, I think it was £300 million debt facility recently. You last fundraised back in 2024. How have you found the fundraising process, I guess, on the equity side first as a second-time founder, and then we can talk about the debt facility as well.
So on the equity funding, I think like we are in a difficult space. Lending has never been super popular with VCs, which I think is a bit of a blessing and a curse. Like I think because very few lending business have been funding, I think the ones that are getting to scale now are being highly valued and they have very limited competition. So I think the ones that are in the right space can win very big. But we've had some incredible early investors like QED, Venture Friends, AliCorp, and a few other VCs, which have been incredibly supportive about helping us scale. So I think we've raised about 45 million in equity so far. But if I'm really honest, there's been points where I've been against a brick wall thinking, am I ever gonna get this done? I remember once where we had to stop lending for a couple of days because we were literally very close to running out of money. But we managed to get through and continue to build. And that's mainly thanks to the incredible investors that we've got. And there's obviously quite a large court case. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a hidden commission court case that will be the final hearing in the Supreme Court is this Friday. Off the back of that, it's expected that a large proportion of the traditional car finance lenders will be in a huge amount of trouble financially, plus also having to deal with all the claims. So off the back of that, we'll expect to probably fundraise in September to really kind of make sure we capture even more growth. We're already growing to 150% year on year, so I think we can probably accelerate that a little bit more off the back of that. So equity has been a challenge, but equity is always a challenge, and it's just part of being an entrepreneur. On the debt side, though, we're probably one of the most popular kind of asset classes. It's asset-backed. Auto lending has been the highest performing asset class of all consumer lending. Even 08, 09, it outperformed mortgages and significantly credit cards and other unsecured kind of lending. So it's an extremely popular asset class with, private credit plus large retail banks. So I think I would say it's been relatively easy on the debt side. Debt is never easy because the actual transaction, if you don't know what you're doing, is very complex. So we have an incredible guy, Fred, that leads on that side of it. And there's been huge demand for what we offer as a product, especially with the performance of the loans that we've written.
You mentioned there's been incredible demand. I recently read that when you launched the landing page, within hours there were hundreds of signups for the product. There was so much kind of need for that product and want for that product from the market. If you were going to start a B2C company now, from what you've learned, kind of how would you start that? Where would you market? There's a lot of talk about building in public, making sure that you're seen on LinkedIn, on X. Can you give any flavor on that and building a B2C company from scratch now?
Great question. I think that some of the AI companies are doing some really nice stuff with their kind of hype marketing. 100%. And so I think it's about, I really like some of these D2C companies that are kind of positioning as cheating for X, whether that's kind of cheating for an exam or a job interview, or
Clearly.
I think that is, cheating for a live podcast.
Yeah, we've got to open up right now.
We're not even in the studio right now.
So I think that, definitely. I think that that's really interesting. and something that obviously can drive like mega demands. And these people that are thinking about distribution before they start and how you get consumers interested even before you've developed the product is a great way to build it. And I think the influencers play this playbook. It doesn't matter if you're Jake Paul or a new AI company. I think it's a really powerful way of ultimately building demand and building interest in the product category that you're doing, and then obviously you can then execute the product off the back of it. But I think ultimately, the same with Carmoola is like, can you acquire the customers? What do the unit economics look like? If you obviously solve the biggest part of that, which is distribution and brand, then I think you're on to a big winner.
And it's also where your customers are, right? Like, where are they living? And I imagine, I don't know, are Carmoola customers on X? Like, do you want to be a big kind of X influencer if you're the CEO of Carmoola? I don't know.
Probably not. Like, I think if you're a B2B company, maybe for consumers, I think, like if you think about the average consumer in the UK that is interested in a car, they're on your traditional platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I was looking at a crazy stat, which was like what percentage of low and medium households are using OpenAI, and it's a very, very small percentage compared to higher income families. So I think you really kind of need to think, where is your consumer? How are they interacting with this brand? And ultimately, you've got to go to the places they are. But for example, like we've done a lot of founder-led ads on TikTok, and although I've made a cameo in that, I think it's the best performing performance ad now. And so I think consumers want that authentic and that real personality behind the brand. And I think that's becoming more and more important as we go forward.
And have you got a big push planned for the Supreme Court ruling on Friday?
Yeah, so we plan to do some pretty big activity off the back of it. So we still think TV is a really key part of this. We've been using TV. A lot of our consumers are still consuming TV. So we're in process of, like, we've already done TV, so we plan to expand that quite a bit and then just ramp all the other kind of channels off the back of it. But really it's more about showing consumer there's a better way and really empowering them to get their finance sorted before they go and buy their car, so that they can get a better deal and a more transparent and better experience. So that's what we're here to do. And I think that there's this is just going to drive trust in Carmoola even more.
Amazing. It sounds like you've got a lot of very exciting things coming up with the Supreme Court ruling, potential raise later this year, growing incredibly fast. Are there any sort of financial user milestones that you want to hit in the next 18 months, whether it's 50 million of revenue, 100 billion of revenue, whatever it is?
Yes, of course. So I think like the goal will be like, I like to think of them more in terms of delivery and number of customers than the revenue target. So I'm really excited I can announce that we're just about to launch PCP today, which is a huge product. So PCP will enable customers to lease a car rather than just buy the whole car. So that will be live at 12 o'clock today. So customers will be able to access. That will be a really cool, nice live exclusive for you guys. And we'll be launching car insurance later this year, early part of next year as well. So consumers will have like a fully integrated purchase journey where they can buy the car and tap to add car insurance as well, which will be really cool. And so the goal will be, we'll probably hit about 20,000 customers this year. And then next year, we're probably getting closer to 50,000 customers. We're looking at international growth in the US and a couple of other markets. So my goal is to get to 1 million customers by 2030. So yeah, let's keep pushing and keep delivering value to those consumers and to make that possible.
Amazing. That's our first scoop. So thank you for that. You're talking about international expansion and product expansion. How do you decide which products to roll out to next, and how do you decide what markets to roll into next?
I think like the world's best companies now, like it's quite an established playbook to run a product expansion plus an international expansion. On the product side, we heavily focus on, what is going to drive the maximum value to the consumer. So I think you can get very wrapped up in doing very, very small things. It's like, but you want to kind of blend the small things with the big kind of strategic pieces, like car insurance, like these other things. And how do you use that to cross sell or introduce the customers to more of your product set? And so it's really about thinking about those things. But we use like an effort versus reward scale. We actually recently built a sort of strategic scorecard, if you like, that we kind of analyze, how's this going to improve defensibility? Like, what is the customer value? How hard is this to execute? What are the regulatory risks? And all the various things that we kind of build a scorecard with different weightings. And so that's kind of how we think about all of these initiatives. And we weigh them against each other and kind of make the decisions off the back. So quite analytical, but with an element of gut feel around, and then usually from that point, we'll then usually go and test it and explore those in further detail. So test it in the product, be like what the propensity to purchase it will be, and then just build the data set to get to a higher level of conviction that this will work, and then drive it from there.
Nice. And yeah, it sounds very analytical. We're running out of time. We've got 2 minutes left. I wanted to ask 2 more questions, Aidan. First question, what's it like working with your wife? You mentioned that she is like co-founder, working on product. What's that like?
Incredible. Like, ultimately, you get to spend every day and every minute with the person you think the world of. But it does come with challenges. Like ultimately, you're dealing with a highly stressed situation a lot of the time. So it's a difficult mix to get right between, kind of driving as the CEO and then having to be a husband as well. And so, yeah, it comes with challenges, but I'm extremely grateful that I get to do it and share the journey with someone that you're clearly quite committed to spending the rest of your life with. So it is good.
Yeah. I can imagine there's like a lot of work at work, a lot of work back at home as well. Final question, any advice, what would you give, to aspiring entrepreneurs, people thinking about taking the leap?
I think think big and really go for it and commit. Like, I think you've got to really think big in these days. I think there's so much opportunity, more opportunity than ever, and so much access to actually get stuff done. I remember when I started, it was so complicated, so difficult. There was so little information. And now there's no excuse. There's so much information out there. There's so many ways in which you can test products and get stuff. So I think make sure you think big and have a kind of big vision, but think about how you're going to execute it and do the basics as well. Like, how you're going to make money. What is this really valuable to the consumer? And then really test those things as much as possible before you actually really start committing to build something out.
Amazing. Great advice. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for the scoop. We will be watching. And if you ever hit those milestones, if you're thinking about announcing a fundraise, you know where to come.
Come to ETS
All right,
Live.
thanks, guys. Pleasure.
Good to meet you, Aidan. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Amazing conversation.
Great chat. We've got Henry Palmer coming on. He's the founder and managing partner of Lightridge and the founding partner of Amplifier. So it'd be interesting to talk to him. He was recently on CNBC.
Yes.
So it'd be good. I think he's coming in. He's in our waiting room at the moment. So we're just waiting for our producer to give us the thumbs up.
Excellent news.
And I think we're ready to go. All right, Henry, welcome.
We are live.
Hello. Very nice to be here.
How are you doing? It's great to have you today.
Yeah, I'm doing very, very well. Just here in London. Busy as always. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you. We're thrilled to have you. Why don't you give us like a super quick intro, who you are, what is Lightridge?
So Lightridge is a new fund. We formed investing both in the US and in the UK and Germany. It's very much focused on industrial resilience and security, and co-founded with my partner Max Kramer, who's based in New York. So very much kind of pursuing those key verticals of materials, advanced manufacturing, logistics, and dual purpose defense.
Yeah, nice.
Amazing, very cool. Now, we've heard this phrase a lot around resilience. Could you kind of go into that a bit more? We've had a lot of VCs come on and talk about it, about talking about investing in defense, investing in materials manufacturing. What does like resilience mean to you?
So I think resilience really depends on, primarily which which part of the stack you're looking to address, right? So if you're the MOD or Bundeswehr or DoD, you're looking at what are the parts of your critical industrial base to produce and manufacture the weapon systems that you need to deploy with your armed services in the field, and to be able to either produce those yourselves or have a secure supply chain that's able to deliver those as and when needed at any point in time. But obviously you can think a lot more widely than that in terms of the economy as a whole. And this varies market to market. You can't simply look at the US and sort of translate over some of the themes and theses we have for, say, that market around reindustrialization and apply those exactly to the UK. The UK is a very different market with very different kind of resources, and also with very different sort of potential opportunities ahead of it in terms of where it grows. But when we look at, say, emerging critical industries in the UK's case, say in compute, in life sciences, in biosynthetics, these are the things that are going to drive our economy over the next 5-10 years or more. And so resilience also means that you have in place the kind of the materials, the talent, the capital, everything that you need to really accelerate growth in those spaces. So as I say, it very much depends on whether you're looking at this from a national security and sovereignty standpoint, or whether you're looking at this, say, from an economic and wealth creation one, and it can mean slightly different things in both cases.
And how are you thinking about investing in these companies in these space? I guess, like, what is your thesis, and kind of what kind of opportunities or founders are you looking to back?
Well, I mean, to kind of go big picture for a second, we like to look at the kind of long historical arc, what's happened before, where we're going to go in the future, and try to determine kind of timing and critical need today. So we're very much of the mind that these periods of historical anomaly, like Pax Romana, Pax Britannica, and now more recently the age we've all lived through of Pax Americana, is coming to an end. And this means we're now entering into a much more multipolar world and a far more adversarial one. And the signals for that are all over the place, right? We're seeing increasingly the breakdown of the post-Bretton Woods era institutions, rules-based systems, trades and tariffs, capital controls and onshoring, Chinese strategic military and industrial build-up, US decoupling from Europe to try and put more resources into the Pacific. So the signals are all there. And in fact, you could argue that this has been the case for a lot longer than maybe people assume, but largely our adversaries were happy to allow us to live under the illusion that that period of Pax Americana in that unipolar world was still continuing. So what does this mean for sort of Europe and what we need to sort of do going forward, and what are the opportunities it creates? Well, really, it's a return to a historical norm, right? So as I say, a period like Pax Americana is the anomaly, not the rule. And in these sort of periods, there may be increasingly sort of a breakdown into traditional sort of alliances, trading blocks, more conflict, a greater need for defense, a greater need for the sort of strong guards of hard power, technology, of economic resilience, and of military capability. But this also creates massive opportunities, for growth if you have the sort of ability to face that reality. And it's that opportunity that we're, really looking to pursue and attack. So we, as I say, though, to focus in on Europe rather than the US, which is obviously the main topic for this podcast, we look at what is the kind of existing IP and talent base that we have here that can be unlocked to start to sort of fulfill some of those missions. If we take the UK has a massively underinvested in sort of high precision engineering and machining talent base, right? So we look at opportunities, say, in like advanced manufacturing, and the role of AI and robotics can take in creating, say, like nano distributed factories to supply into sectors like aerospace and automotive and the sort of burgeoning space and satellite sectors. And how do you build that in an environment which is often a little more of a desert than it is an oasis? You've got the talent, but you have more regulatory control. You have high energy prices. So how can you optimize by using these technologies and investing in those technologies? In the case of the sort of European market, where we're mostly focused on Germany, we might look at, say, the advances in quantum and the role that plays in cryptography and cyber, and how that can be deployed into both private and sort of defense sectors. But I think throughout all of that, the sort of the common thread that we have is that the fundamental shift that's changing all of our lives, that everybody on this in this discussion today and listening to this podcast is aware of, is the impact AI is going to have, a fundamental and profound shift in technology. But most of our focus and attention has been on the software layer, has been of the role of LLMs, the other kind of advances in AI software that are getting us towards AGI. And we focus much more on what is the impact that's going to have on the physical world, right? How do those bits start to interact with atoms? And what we're seeing effectively is an entirely new industrial revolution, where a lot of the things that we've lived with throughout the 21st century are going to be radically changed and rethought as you start to see AI fuse into atoms and into our infrastructure and into our physical and real environment.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but it feels like we are approaching this very different world than we were in 5 or 10 years ago, and especially 20 or 30 years ago. This is your second fund. How is what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years? How has this shift in global politics and global dynamics changed the way that you have, I guess, like structured your thesis and the opportunities that you're looking at? Is that the same as Amplify, or how have you changed your view as the world around you has changed?
I mean, it's a very good question. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like to go down rabbit holes, right? So I like to go very deep. I find being a generalist very unsatisfactory. So for one reason or another, what I was always drawn to was operating systems. So whether you're looking at politics, or whether you're looking at supply chains, or whether you're looking at any other sort of system, unpacking what are the inputs, right? What are the nodes? How does it function? Where does it break down? And where does it operate, well? And in 2018, 2019, so 2019 was when Amplify's first fund started being deployed. I'd been, from a number of years, even before that, very drawn into the supply chain. At that point, very focused on the logistics and manufacturing part of that. So the role nascent kind of reinforcement learning techniques was having on industrial cobots and warehousing automation systems, the role of digitalization and automation in the sort of software layer for invoicing and reverse factoring and freight forwarding and managing logistics and transport systems. I think the big tipping point was, there it went from an opportunity to leverage emerging technology to transform an old industry to a sort of post-COVID period where it became very clear very quickly the sort of these asymmetrical threats that were beginning to disrupt and break down our supply chains, and the ways in which that was also creating not only a necessity for new technologies to solve those problems, but also an opportunity, to sort of drive returns. But COVID was just sort of start, because obviously we'd had Crimea already, but then Ukraine emerges. We see increased ratcheting in sort of America-Chinese sort of conflict and geopolitical positioning. We see obviously the move in 2004 by the Trump administration into effectively reflecting that reality back towards Europe, and the kind of shock that brought and change that brought. But the signals were coming through all the way in sort of 21, 22, 23. And the biggest indicator to me that what we were doing in areas of logistics and manufacturing, and at that point increasingly in the material space, suddenly had a significant national security and defense component, was really around 2000 and end of 2022, beginning 23, where increasingly we started to get called into meetings inside MOD, inside Bundeswehr, inside DoD, et cetera, where they were reaching out to the private sector, to venture capital investors, to founders and technology builders, to say, these are some of the problems that we face, and we're just starting to grapple with how do we begin to solve them. And all of this gets supercharged, of course, with the CHIPS Act and with efforts under the Biden administration to resolve the huge stranglehold that China had over certain areas of critical minerals and REEs. And this is a transition and a battle that's going on today. But that was, I think, the point at which it became clear that there was also a sort of overarching national security and defense angle that was going to fall into the thesis.
And I just wanted to ask quickly, on that point about government policy, CHIPS Act, there is, I want to get your view on what role do you think the government, and specifically European governments, should play in helping to plug that gap around strategic minerals, but also helping to reindustrialize countries like the UK and Germany. Do you see this as being like a private sector thing that we need to encourage investment in, or do you see European leaders needing to take a greater political stance to try and reindustrialize, to try and protect minerals?
Well, I'm something of a sort of classic free market libertarian. So I'm a great believer that in the sort of Jeffersonian principle that the government should only do the things that only government should do, and it should do them well if at all possible. And otherwise, everything else should be left alone. But of course, the world is a little more complicated than that. The reality is that there are areas, for example, that I think governments are very effective. And largely those areas are where the result of their input is not a manipulation of the market. So all too often, market intervention in the form of subsidies, et cetera, or nationalization of industries largely leads to, or indeed regulation, largely leads to manipulated outcomes and manipulated markets. We've seen this obviously classically throughout Europe when it comes to wind farms, where the subsidies were largely about the buildup of turbine infrastructure, but very little in terms of investment went into storage capacity. And we've seen again and again, in Germany especially recently, about 6 months ago, I think, if my memory is right, subsidies granted by the Bundestag had a time limit, I think of roughly 8 to 10 years. This came to an end, and one of the first and largest wind farms in Germany was shut down overnight the moment those subsidies came to an end. And I think that's indicative of the kind of false market or manipulated market that it creates, because it voids any incentive from the private sector to continue to deploy capital into necessary infrastructure to make these things sustainable, like over the long term, and make them function and profitable. So long story short, government does great stuff when it comes to areas the market doesn't want to go. R&D, we think of ARIA in the UK and the establishment of that. We think of SPRIND in Germany, where large amounts of public money are being put into scientific research and development, ideally with as much freedom as possible in order to, and not too much predetermination of outcome in order to drive innovation. But innovation is ultimately the proliferation of those discoveries and technologies in the market. And that's where the government's intervention, in my view, should largely end. So when we think of things like REEs, that, here, there are certain industries where you have to say, can Europe genuinely compete? Or does it need to find a way of managing alliances and friendly relationships with other nations that have access to these minerals and materials, that can do the refining, et cetera, onshore? It's a different question to, say, America, who has the legitimate ability to sort of take back and recover some of those industries. Another good example of this is obviously when we think about the steel industry in the UK and our ability to forge virgin steel. Now, this is where obviously my sort of principles around subsidy or market intervention come to an end, because once you start dealing with security matters, so in a hot conflict, your ability to be able to produce virgin steel is relatively critical, just in terms of putting armaments into the field. So suddenly it becomes actually necessary to maintain at least some kind of domestic production capability there. That is kind of the market's, its competitiveness, its sort of price, although you should do everything you can to manage and improve those wherever possible, becomes a secondary issue, i.e. letting the market kill it entirely is obviously not a great idea either. So this is where I say, like, you can deal with sort of fundamentals and first principles on some of these things. You can be a purist in terms of how you think about state and market. And a lot of the time, these things are true. But we also have to be realistic about what kind of industries we can create and can hold inside our geographies, inside our markets. And we also have to be realistic when we say it is necessary to intervene in order to protect a critical industry that simply from a national security standpoint, we must retain some capacity or capability for.
I want to just touch on, so you say the reality, I want to touch on the culture as well. I mean, you recently wrote on X, the US leans towards abundance and personal freedom. Europe, by contrast, opts for managed scarcity and collective control. What are your thoughts on that? We talk a lot about kind of EU risk culture. We've spoken before about the effect it has on kind of investing, VC culture. What are your thoughts on that kind of live?
I mean, culture is a fascinating thing, and often it's like smoke, right? It's hard to grasp and hard to kind of, really get down to sort of specifics. And you always have to talk in sort of generalizations. But largely, if you look at the way America was founded as a sort of frontier nation, it was always about, pushing west. And it was also always about, because it was existing on the frontier, it bred this sort of extraordinary sense of self-reliance, because the government wasn't able to follow you as you went out into that land and towards the Pacific. Europe, on the other hand, has largely, its experience of the 21st century and its culture has largely been about trying to protect its position rather than grow it. It's largely been about trying to manage risk. You can see this in our rules around everything from vaccines, which obviously most recently was obviously a huge issue around COVID, how these were tested and rolled out, how they were approved, the time it took to do that, et cetera, et cetera. You can see it in how capital is deployed into the financial markets, the speed and scale with which European funds will deploy capital, but also the speed with which they will seek to end a company if they feel that it's not able to achieve its sort of outcomes. And in Europe, you tend to see kind of longer death cycles where these companies get sort of managed down rather than a quick sort of determining decision on, is this or isn't this going to create the outcome it's desired, and should we continue to invest as a result? But I think the European venture capital scene is still capable of backing extraordinary companies and acting with extraordinary vision and deploying capital to match that. Unfortunately, the venture capital ecosystem and the startup and founder ecosystem in Europe is not always necessarily reflective of the sort of larger society in which it operates. And you can see that in the sort of the normal status quo of politics and how we regulate our markets in comparison to the US. So I think, one has to be careful to disparage Europe to the point where you're saying there are no risk takers. There are no people trying to build moonshots, and we lack that kind of vision and capacity. That talent is all there, but the environment all too often is not a kind of focused on the builder and is not builder friendly. And I think that comes back to largely the sort of cultural differences or underlying cultural differences in both markets, US in comparison to Europe.
And on the, just speaking about the UK as well, I think we've discussed on the show before, we have a tendency sometimes to be overprotective. The EUI Inc. Act, the AI Act was maybe a sign of that as well, where maybe it's like, let's just assess what we're doing. Let's stop. Let's continue to move quick, but let's not sort of overlay these layers of safety on too much. And it's kind of reminding me of what happened recently with the Online Safety Act. And you put some thoughts out about this as well. This is a quote from one of your ex-posts as well. "This is not a game. This is a paradigm shift in surveillance." And we saw that people weren't happy about this. There was a Proton VPN saw a surge of 1,400% in UK-based accounts sign up just hours after this news. And it feels very restrictive, you know. I was wondering what your thoughts on this are just generally and how this is sort of playing into the whole culture narrative.
Absolutely. I mean, we see again and again and again in our societies. This is true sometimes in American politics as much as it is in ours, but it's particularly apparent, I think, here in the UK and elsewhere in Europe, where in order to protect a very, very small group, incredibly stringent and often costly rules are placed upon everybody. And I think often without necessarily the clarity and understanding of the impact that those rules have. When the Online Safety Act was in its drafting phases, right, when it was going through Parliament in 2002, 3, and 4, again and again, you know, amendments were offered up at various stages to deal with, say, problematic clauses like 111, you know, which basically allows the government to request backdoors into encrypted messaging. You know, and here we come to basic principles. You know, you either have a right to privacy or you don't. And to say that you're allowed, that any kind of digital messaging provider should not only be reading and viewing all communications you make, but simultaneously should also allow effectively any government agency or without a court order to review and see those messages. It's tantamount to allowing, let's say, the equivalent in the 19th century of every letter posted with the Royal Mail being opened up on a daily basis and scanned and reviewed. And obviously, we live in a very, very different environment, and privacy is a much more complicated thing. And it's also difficult, of course, if you go too far in the other direction from a privacy standpoint. We look at GDPR. You know, last year, this cost UK business around £1.1 billion. This is a huge amount of money. So this is a very complex issue. My first and major problem with the Online Safety Act is that largely the ministers and parliamentarians who design, and civil servants who design that bill that is now an act of Parliament, do not seem to fundamentally grasp how the very technology, the very user-to-user platforms and communication platforms that they're choosing to regulate actually work and function. And that's been very, very clear over the last 2 or 3 days with all kinds of things that again and again, when this act was being created, they said, it won't go there. And we don't need to write this into the act because it's not its intention. Well, intention and result are two very, very different things. And we're seeing the results now. And what it is undoubtedly a stifling of free speech. It's undoubtedly a invasion and eradication of certain critical areas of privacy that have been a right in this country for a very, very long time. And simultaneously, even today I was reading, and this was an interesting take that hadn't even occurred to me leading up to this point, is that of course, users are now very wary about on any given website who's simply looking to fulfill the regulatory requirements and therefore impose an identity check and age verification on their user, will use the lowest cost possible solution to do this, which means every user going into any one of these sites or user social media platforms and so on is going to be handing over critical parts of their identity to a private company to be stored in servers and clouds that they don't necessarily have the ability to have sort of certainty around the security of those. And if they're not willing to do that, they're increasingly being pushed onto VPNs, which, again, some VPNs are very secure in terms of the way they protect their users' data, or even the fact that they won't even gather that data at all. But there are plenty of VPN app solutions, and often those at the cheaper end of the market, that operate out of jurisdictions outside the Five Eyes, outside Europe, outside our normal data protection laws, where you're suddenly going to have UK citizens who want to freely access the World Wide Web, going into these VPNs and unknowingly having their data moving all the time onto Russian servers. This is not, I understand the sort of nobility of what their intention was, right? To remove massive amounts of child abuse, bullying online and suicide, the kind of risk of pedophilic rings and all the rest of it. This intention is noble. But if you don't fundamentally understand what you're regulating, and if you don't also have some kind of line that you draw around fundamental principles like freedom of speech, like privacy, you will massively overstep the mark. And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I hope the intention was not of our government and of our state to try to increase surveillance by the back door, to try to increase policing and control on speech by the back door. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on that. But I think if you do that, then you have to say, well, fundamentally, your failing was, as I say, not to be able to either understand the principles that you were starting to tread upon, or indeed to fundamentally understand the technology that you're regulating and the effects that it'll have, which can also be dangerous for the very people and users that you say you're trying to protect.
Yeah. It's
We don't actually have that long. We've got 2 minutes left, I think. So I think one of the questions I wanted to quickly ask, just to finish up, when you're choosing a company or a founder, what is in your investment portfolio, what is the kind of most important quality that you're looking for when you're choosing that, either company or founder?
Mission. I want a founder who understands their extraordinary capacity and talent to change whatever part of the world they're looking to change, and to have clarity of what that mission and purpose of the company is. I think a lot of the time, you can often find extraordinary technical talent that's developed extraordinary IP that could impact the world in extraordinary ways. But unless it has that mission attached and the sort of drive and singular vision of a founder to go and attack that, it will often fail to reach the kind of scale that it should, not only to deliver returns for its investors and to create wealth and opportunity for all its employees and its teams, but also fundamentally to disrupt and change the very thing that it hopes to.
Amazing. I think that's probably all we've got time for today.
Yes.
It's been great to have you. We're super excited, and as your firm starts to make investments, feel free to keep us in the loop. We'd love to cover some of the stories, cover some of the funding rounds, and we look forward to seeing the type of companies that you are backing because of their mission, and hoping to make Europe and the West more resilient. So thank you very much for your time. We've loved having you.
Cheers, Henry.
Thanks, Henry.
It's been great. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Speaking of the Online Safety Act, so really this is coming back to one of the deep dives you mentioned earlier. One of the things you had to do for this, when you're going through one of these websites, whatever it is, you have to submit an age verification via an ID format, right? So I'm not sure if you saw, but there was this app called T that went viral recently, and this is just reading a TechCrunch article, but essentially the app was something that women could download. This app, it was for women only. You could download the app and you could you would have to supply an age verification thing. It was a selfie or a government ID or something, and you would essentially rank or comment on photos of men that were on there, to be honest, without their permission. But you'd discuss photos of men and rank them based off your sort of previous experiences with this man. So has anyone dated this man before? How did the date go? Blah, blah. And then people would be like, oh, he didn't turn up, or we had a really great date, or it's both positive and negative. But it was vibe coded, the app. So it was hacked, obviously, and all of the individuals' photos, I think it was So
72,000.
So 72,000 user images leaked.
And then also these are images of the women who are taking the selfies for ID verification.
They've been flying around X.
They have been flying around X everywhere, and some of them have
photos themselves.
Yeah. It's just like a huge wall of.
And look, men were like, some of the like chronically online individuals were pretty pissed because it was like, how is this fair? You know, this isn't like, if it was the reverse, if it was the other way around. Like,
as in men were complaining that women were able to post and share.
Well, they were just saying, well, if we created an app that was like this, it would kind of get torn down. Right?
I did see an app be created, which is the alternative.
So after that, and some of them had some pretty awful names we won't discuss on the show because this is PG place, but it was that happened after it and whatever. But like some of these accounts had geolocation data attached to it.
Oh my god!
So you could see that some of the tags, like I saw one tweet that was like, you know, don't sign up to like a singles like dating app rating app or whatever if you're in the US Army on like a hidden like army base location.
No way.
And then the geoping was on this like really small like landing strip with like 2 like big fighter jets on, like really, really small area though. And the ping was from like one of the little houses next to it.
That's so bad.
That's crazy. It's interesting. One of the companies, you know, Project Europe announced their big 6 founder companies that they're backing for
We've
the
got
first
Kitty
time.
Mayo on.
We've got Kitty Mayo on
Boom.
talking about it.
For that.
But one of those companies is all about security in the age of vibe coding, because it's, you know, they're building AI agents to go in and my understanding is find those sort of security threats, those data gaps, and help flag them and plug them for you. Because things like this is going to become more and more common.
And their response was dreadful. It was very much like kind of blaming it on like, it was like a legacy thing, like, there was like a legacy database that was like prone. And I think there's a statement here, it's like, we have engaged third-party cybersecurity experts and are working around the clock to secure our systems, the company said. At this time, we have implemented additional security measures and have fixed the data issue. And the guy who founded it went viral because someone checked his LinkedIn profile and his coding experience is like a 6-month boot camp at Berkeley.
Wasn't he a consultant or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Super corporate guy that just learned.
Yeah, just like the poor guy, he's vibe coded his way into this app. It's obviously gone viral because it's incredibly controversial and it's just completely blown up in his face.
But it just means that the next generation of people growing up, and even people today, you just no longer trust the apps that you're using. So it's going to be, I think, over time.
There's so many apps flying out everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's going to get to a point where you think, I used to be able to trust an app with my personal details, with my like identification, but now I don't feel so confident. And
because they took so much money and so much, you know, to actually be on the App Store, they had to, you know, hit certain kind of
you had
regulations
to be established,
and stuff.
You had to be,
And it's super expensive, right? And like, if you're just vibe coding an app, doesn't mean that you've got loads of money to actually put the app onto the App Store.
I'm not sure if it's that hard to get on the App Store. Like, I
think it's just like really expensive.
You have to pass. You have to like pass a certain thing. Like there are like, you know, anyone can't just chuck something up.
But
it's like, it's not too. But I think you can usually tell if something's. To be fair, I've not come across like a vibe coded, like app on the phone. Yeah,
it's like Cal AI. They're now bigger than. They didn't necessarily vibe coded it, but they used Cursor, like predominantly to code it. So they knew how to code, but they were using prompts and LLMs.
Yeah, to be fair, when it's something as simple as like Cal AI or the T app, I guess like, you know, you wouldn't really. It can't be like, is this vibe code? Is it not? Because like the app's incredibly simple, so it's like you're literally just like ranking and commenting. On
well, I mean, Cal AI, you take a picture of food and it tells you how many calories there are. It's pretty crazy.
True to that, that's actually probably more complex than T app. Like
just
clicking like yes or no on people.
Exactly. So who have we got on next?
We have got Zego.
Oh yes,
Sten, CEO, co-founder of Zego, the UK insurtech, all about pay-as-you-go motor insurance. They really kind of blew up and it became a unicorn in 2021. At the same time as we saw the kind of explosion of quick commerce. You know, there was like 101 quick commerce companies. We had like Gorillas. What other ones were there? Gorillas. Well, there were so many. Like Deliveroo did it, but I can't remember.
There was ones like fast food delivery sort of stuff.
Quick commerce in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Zap was one. Wheezy.
I think that's why a load of them have gone bust.
Yeah, they've all gone bust.
This was like a hype. This was like a hype thing.
Exactly.
Like
it was COVID. It was like COVID. There was that big bubble, and then everyone was investing in it because everybody was at home, and it felt like, wow, quick commerce is going to be the future of grocery deliveries. So it's very well timed.
And they've tried to go into like grocery stores and all that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. I was chatting to one of
And
my
Deliveroo
mates
is still
today.
doing it.
He has like a Deliveroo account, obviously, and his Deliveroo account got hacked, basically. And someone ordered AirPods on his Deliveroo account.
way.
You can get AirPods, yeah.
Wow.
So like the delivery driver must have just gone into the shop,
Bought some AirPods.
got the AirPods, and just sent
What
them
I,
to the.
What I really want to talk to Sten about is Wave coming to London and how that's kind of changing insurance. You know, if you have fully automated drivers or driverless cars and actual drivers, human drivers, how does that change?
Oh, super interesting. I found that they're hiring for an autonomous vehicle underwriter in their team. So like, what does that mean? How do you even, you know, which is quite
Such a busy
at the
role,
forefront
for
of
sure.
insurance. It's like, how do you actually insure autonomous vehicles?
Yeah.
Who holds liability there?
But then it's the transition period. So I think I read Sten, maybe it was on LinkedIn, he was basically saying that in 40 years max, you know, we'll have just driverless vehicles, right? But what is interesting is the kind of transition period, that maybe 5 to 10 years, where you've got actual drivers driving cars and then just driverless vehicles.
Well, at the same
driving
time,
about.
you sort of,
at the same time on the same roads. What happens?
Well, mate,
in that
have
transition?
you guys been in like a Waymo or a Wave before?
No.
So I've been
No.
in them, mate. When we were in SF at Convergence, we got them everywhere, and like they are really good. Like
Yeah.
they are like much safer than a human driver.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
without
but I
that,
feel like
and it's
imagine
smoother.
driving in like London compared to.
I don't know, man. We were staying in downtown, so it was kind of, it wasn't London style, to be fair. It wasn't as hectic as London in rush hour, but like the stuff it picks up is insane. You have like cyclists, it's like the LiDAR thing that's, you know, spinning or whatever, but you can see like pedestrians that are like behind, like round corners almost, and it's kind of picking up. It's like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, and it's incredibly smooth. Like the way it turns, it's like degree precision turns. That's like every turn kind of feels the same.
Mad.
Very, very smooth. But yeah, I'm worried that they're going to start, not worried, but it would be a natural next step, but we were laughing and joking because I think it was quite early that we first got in one, and we were kind of limited on the songs that we could play. Like it comes with like pre-selected songs, right? And we were looking at that, we were like, that is like advertisement space, right?
Oh
there.
yeah,
Like,
so true.
who can push their song in, or like, I think we ran out of like song plays. And they just didn't give us an option to get more. It was like, your account's run out of song plays on the thing.
What?
But that's
So you
just
couldn't
like,
pay for it?
Well, at the time, I don't think we could. Because I think if we
Comes
could,
like a
we
now
would have
you
just
could
tried
probably
it.
can.
But now it's like, like buy more credits, like play more tunes in your car. Like, that was like weird. I was just like,
And are they monitored at all? I think because when they were first rolled out, I thought there was like one person in a room somewhere monitoring like 20 of these vehicles.
I probably...
There has to be.
But like, surely it's not
It'd be interesting
like
to
one guy with like a master...
Yeah, well, I thought it was like it's more it's like
CEO.
someone plugged into like 100 screens, but ready to jump in and take control of the car. I thought if something went wrong.
No,
but it'd be
what,
interesting-
remotely?
I've seen them train them, and it's like there's just a human in it. Like
Yeah.
driving.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah,
the first one I saw, like, someone was like, "Oh, that's a Waymo," and I was like, "No way, it looks over," and there was a human.
But there's a human there.
They're a fraud.
They're not doing too good.
yeah. It's obviously not working.
Yeah, so it'd be really interesting to talk to him about all of that
Yeah,
kind of
be good.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have we got him in? We're just waiting for our producer to.
Yeah,
Give us the go-ahead.
Give us a thumbs up so we can align everything, all of our behind-the-scenes
yeah.
tech.
No, but
Maybe while
super
we're waiting,
exciting.
a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Checkout.com, Spectre.
Be the reason your phone wins the deal of the decade. Harness the power of live data and AI-driven analysis to outsmart the competition and make confident decisions in private markets. Sounds
Love
good,
to
huh?
hear
Tryspector.com.
Sounds good. Gotta get my hands on that, you know. I've already
checkout?
got my hands on it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we
Sten.
use Spectre all the time. So yeah, very exciting.
Welcome, Sten. How are you
out.
doing?
Hello, I am good. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
You are coming
Loud
through loud and
and
clear.
clear.
Are we coming through okay?
Yes, all good.
Perfect.
This studio looks incredible there.
Thank-
It looks like you've been doing it for a few years.
Yeah, well, we're week 7, but every week we're getting better and better. Last week was the first time we went
Yeah.
live, and I would say everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But this time, things are smooth
We're running
sailing,
smooth.
and
We're
we're feeling
running
good.
smooth.
So, look, thank you so much for joining us. As like, I think,
Fine.
the first question, give us a quick intro. Who are you? What are you building?
Sure, I'm Sten. I'm originally from Estonia and building an insurance company in the UK. So Zego, we've been around 9.5 years. we're offering vehicle insurance for scooter owners, car owners, van owners in the UK. Our USP is ultimately we price based on how you drive. So all three of you could be all saying you're great drivers. I can bet money on there's a big difference how you all drive. But if you're roughly in the same age group, live in the same area, you're all paying the same for insurance. Whereas actually one of you should be paying 3 times more than the other. So what we effectively do, we have a mobile app where you give your location access. We then analyze your driving data, and based on that, we offer you up to 30-40% reduction on your insurance premium. That's what we are doing.
So I'd love to, what are the variables that you're looking at? Sorry, you're looking at like geolocation data, just like how would I be marked down, basically?
Yeah, so what we
crash
do
into a wall.
Yeah, well, we take all the geolocation data, accelerometer data from the phone, and then we analyze that data. Ultimately, we turn that into like multiple simple events. One is like your braking, your acceleration, your cornering, your speeding as well. So those are the elements that we then aggregate into one score, and that score is the predictor of your driving. Similarly to like credit score, in a sense that you kind of put a bunch of inputs in there, and then you turn into score, which dictates your potential mortgage price.
Wow,
nice. And just generally, what's top of mind right now?
I mean, I'm here, so that's on my mind.
ETSL, we love it.
That's a great answer.
So in 20 minutes, there's a bunch of other kind of problems that you're solving day in, day out. But but at the moment, I'm here. So
you must have an amazing view of so much data, so much driving data, so much individual data that you're able to kind of pick insights out from. Is there anything that's particularly interesting? Any things that you're learning about the way that people are driving, which you find yourself fascinating?
Absolutely. I mean, just fun fact, we capture around 4 million miles a day. That means around 20 times around the Earth that our drivers do a day, right?
Crazy.
So, and we process that data, analyze data, and draw a bunch of insights on the back of that. If you drive more than 4.5 hours in a row, more than 4.5 hours, there's a massive spike in terms of risk straight after because of fatigue, right? So that's a big indicator of risk. The other one is your acceleration. It's less about how you brake, it's about acceleration, because you're constantly acceleration, and acceleration is another big indicator of how likely one is to have an accident. And thirdly, which when you think of 15 years ago, we did not have mobile phones. Now 60% of accidents are happening because of distraction from a mobile phone, right? So those are the kind of inputs. And of course, where you drive, time of day of driving, the style of driving. But 15% of accidents if I take all the drivers all together, then 15% of those drivers drive half of the losses in the UK. Wow. They're like arguably some customers who are so dangerous that they should not be allowed on the roads. And what we are ultimately doing is that let's find out who are those risky drivers and kindly ask them to move to our competitors and only keep the good ones, and hence we can reduce the pricing.
That's really interesting. Are you doing anything, given the amazing data that you've got, do you do things to try and prevent those accidents? So if you know that people are more likely to crash at 4.5 hours, is there anything that you can do with that data to tell people, hey, it's been 4.5 hours, time for a break, or don't drive for 4.5 hours in the first place, have a break before that?
Absolutely. We have very easily understandable insights in our mobile app. Similarly, what you have with maybe some of the health apps, that how did you sleep, what happened. We got similarly your driving style, you really have to work on your speeding, or you really have to work on your acceleration, etc. So, and on top of that, we did a bit of a trial, which we are now rolling out in a couple of months time more widely. Is actually giving rewards for good driving. So giving some cash back, because when you think of insurance, generally it's they just take, and when I'm in trouble, they don't want to pay out anyway. So it's a very negative perception. But if mid-policy for good driving, we're giving you some vouchers or cashbacks, that completely changes the psychology. When we did the trial, customers improve their driving significantly more when they realize there's some kind of a vouchers and rewards at the end of it. So we did it with like a good couple of thousand people. We are rolling it out more widely later this year. So I think it's going to be hopefully the new norm how insurance should be distributed in the UK for drivers in a couple of years' time.
Now that's really cool. Can we go into that a bit more then? So what kind of, if I was a driver on kind of your pilot scheme, what behaviours, what would I have to do, and how much reward would I get back for that?
So every day you would drive, or whenever you did drive, we would look how well you drove, and then we would give a score for that. And if you were in certain ranges, then you collected points, and then you are able to exchange those points to, Amazon voucher, Greg's voucher, a coffee voucher, you name it. You can choose from. Maybe the closest comparison is like air miles logic. You collect points, but you collect points based on how you drive. So if you're driving poorly, you collect 0 points. If you drive really well, you collect more points, and then you can convert those into the rewards.
Amazing, sounds fun.
You mentioned, obviously, we're talking about the data and the massive amount of data that you guys have coming through the platform and the business. You said once, it feels like my job changes every 2 months. Is that where the data's taking you? Can you give a bit more flavor about how, as the role of CEO, where are you changing? Like every 2 months, your job is basically changing. Give us a bit more flavor.
Do you mean like my job as a CEO? You mean the decisions? Yeah. Like I told my team a couple of months ago that I think me as a CEO, I've been hired and fired 7 times. So because the role and the job is changing so much with the size of a business, with the different challenges that our companies facing and so forth. So I have to constantly reset what is important. How does the team look like? How are we organized, etc. And it's relentless. We started 2016. It was a very rapid kind of a kickoff in terms of business. Then came COVID. We lost 80% of volume in 3 weeks. 80% of revenue disappeared in 3 weeks, right? So how do you then manage the team, the changes? Then 2 months later, it came back and well beyond, right? Because everyone loved to thought the food delivery and just generally everyone working from home or not moving and not going to restaurants. And then came the zero interest world as well, where we raised a ton of money. And then, of course, we had to improve our unit economics as well. So there's been lots of ups and downs. I think it's a proper roller coaster that you go on. And every moment, it's very important as a founder, as a leader of the business, you check where the business is and how do you need to calibrate your work and approach accordingly. And that's relentless. But luckily, I've had to do it so many times, and so far the board has not asked me to move on. So I'm doing it until the very last moment, until the business is the next household name insurer in the UK, at the very least.
Nice. Amazing. And you, the company achieved profitability at the end of 2024, which must have been, an amazing result. A lot of hard work to get there. How does that change the way that you're looking at the business going forward? Are you still looking at potentially raising more money in the future to kind of supercharge growth? Or are you now at a point where you feel like the business is profitable, it's mature, and now we just need to sort of, focus internally and just keep building?
It was great to achieve profitability because, lots of naysayers. It's good to prove naysayers wrong. And but what it has done is the opposite, the ambition has grown even more. We are still relatively small if you compare to some of the large insurers. We are maybe underwriting 0.02% of the market, right? Getting to 5% of the market would mean underwriting $1 billion of premium. So it's a massive market. So that's the ambition and well beyond. So and with insurance, it's similar to lending or banking. If you grow, you need more money because you have to hold some money on the bank account. So we do need to raise more money for sure. It's a slightly different type of capital, but we will be. And the ambition with profitability has only increased. So we want to be growing solidly, 40 to 50% over the next 5 years. And that requires capital. What is the best approach to this capital? That's TBD.
Amazing. No, that makes total sense. It's we love, one of the things we love speaking to founders about is the level of ambition that we encounter. So it's always good to hear that you're sort of thinking bigger. You've done some amount of like European expansion. Are you looking to expand further? And if so, what's next on the horizon?
Yes, we don't. We did some expansion into Europe, especially early on. One thing we've learned the hard way is, although insurance might seem like there's a vehicle and it goes from A to B and you insure them, the way insurance is distributed and how it legally sets up in all the market is so different. It's like languages, French, Spanish, English, they're actually very different languages. And the same is with insurance. So we have decided to double down more on the UK at the moment, but we're actively looking how can we go well beyond with our technology and value proposition. Because the way I explained earlier, distributing rewards, distributing telematics in a very intuitive, easy way to customers, we've had lots of inbound from different, like Japan, South Africa, US, multiple different markets where insurers have been very interested working with us. So we might explore a technology and value proposition, kind of a licensing partnerships, rather than going and starting an insurance company from scratch in those markets. So we will be doing in the coming years from that avenue.
Great, yeah, makes total sense.
I'd love to just go back to sort of like, a few years back, I guess, just speaking about Tallinn in general. Unicorns coming out of Tallinn, Skype, Wise, Bolt, there's another one, Pipedrive. You've started your sort of career in Tallinn. You're a native there in Estonia. Can you talk a bit about the ecosystem there? 'Cause I've been before, and it's like, you have this. I went in, when was it? Maybe January. It's like a lot of snow, but you have this beautiful split of like old town and new as well. And it was surprising. I didn't know it was as buzzing a place as it was in terms of the startup scene and the tech scene. Can you talk us through a little bit about that? Because I think you won like your first hackathon at 17, or your first company you won a prize in Tallinn. Like, I'd love to know what it looks like for young people in Tallinn today.
Yeah. So I started my entrepreneurial career when I was 17, making paper notepads back in Estonia, and it became hugely popular to the point that I was like, 20, making $1 million revenue, and bought a new car from a shop, and like literally every student had like, and people had like 2 notebooks based on the numbers we sold. And it was wow. Great, like the kind of entrepreneurialism that was just generally, and that was taught in a school system. So I was able to do, as 17-year-old, part of a school program, a company. And then when I turned 18, set up a limited company. So one thing is just in a school system, how it's encouraged. Second, Estonia is like 1.3 million people and shrinking in terms of population. It's like, it's so tiny first. Second, it doesn't really have much. It doesn't have any natural gas. It doesn't have any mountains. It doesn't really have anything to like kind of sell or offer or show off to the rest of the world. So it has to then pick something. And we're a tiny country, very good to do minimum viable products. Doing with a 60 million in another country versus 1.3 million is a lot more easier. Hence, there's so much like IT systems in the government that's been just deployed in such a short space of time. So, and I think that just kind of feeds confidence. You do something, okay, we'll take it further. Skype was one element that kind of encouraged the ecosystem. Then Wise was another one. And, we've got nothing else, so might as well just play with software and technology. And I think that's been the evolution, the way I see it.
That's very cool. I can't believe that's taught in school. It's like an entrepreneurship type course at 17 right. is wild. I mean, we were studying like Latin and classics.
Yeah.
What a waste of time that was. No, fascinating.
We were talking just before you joined about autonomous vehicles. We saw that Zego's hiring for, I think it's like an AV underwriter. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about, autonomous vehicles and what it means for your business?
And are you still hiring, or have you found someone?
We are actively talking to a couple of people.
Well, if you're watching,
Luke's looking for a job.
If you think we should chat, Luke, then just ask it. No, I totally I think it's, even when you think of like Uber or Bolt, those businesses in 20 years won't exist. Like the ride hailing driven by drivers just won't exist. So business will be completely disrupted. when you think of vehicle insurance, imagine a world where there's only autonomous vehicles. Like those products that we sell today just won't be relevant. Only when you want to take your antique car out in your kind of privately held garden or area that you want to just go on a memory lane and drive it there. That's the only area where you can do it. That's the only case. So I think the absolute worlds of today, where we have everyone driving a vehicle, and then the future where there's only autonomous, they are pretty clean and simple worlds to price based, and we can talk about what the autonomous world will mean. I think the tricky part is the transition. If you go from like 10 people driving, then 9, 8, 7, whilst also computers 1, 3, and so forth. And that needs to be figured out, and that's going to be super messy. I call it the messy middle. In a world of autonomy, if we think of the absolute world, what are you insuring? You're insuring software, making sure it doesn't, fall over, making sure the hardware works, the product liability, and also cyber risk, which is, in case all those get hacked. So those are the types of risk which have nothing to do with what you have today, which is, the driver behavior risk, how one turns the wheel and then presses the pedals and looks around. So that will change. I think in a messy middle, let's say, Luke and I have an accident and Luke was in his autonomous vehicle and I was not, and I was at fault. So what will insurer now do? Is Luke going to get the replacement vehicle as autonomous vehicle, or you drive your own vehicle? The repair network, how we're going to fix my vehicle or Luke's vehicle, they're completely differently configured, produced, and different kind of engineers will know the different things. So there is a bunch of those problems that have to be figured out. I don't think there's a clear, logical path today. It requires a lot of experimentation, like with any product market fit and so forth. But I would like to think that we are really well placed to win that, because we deal with such a huge amount of data already, how drivers behave. Because generally, insurer just does a kind of quick check on you, gives you a policy, and then next time you see either is a claim or a renewal, whereas we are continuously pulling the data and analyzing. And you need to be able to pull that data from autonomous vehicles and put them together and then evaluate the risk. So I think we'll be really well placed to figure it out, but it will be messy.
And getting access to that data, I guess, you'd have to be working alongside the AV companies, right? The data is no longer telematics data on someone's phone or whatever. It's the data that is tracked by the company that is responsible for the AVs. Are you talking to the companies out there? Are you trying to get access to some of this early data? How are you thinking about the data layer here?
Yeah, the data, when you think of the current car manufacturers, the data, I can buy telematics data from some of the providers, or majority of them already. There's a variability in terms of quality, and they charge way too much, but the data ultimately belongs to the user, and user can decide to unlock that data to any service provider. I think that's going to be probably the natural path as well for autonomous vehicles. If you buy the vehicle belongs to you, you can decide how and what data gets used. We are actively talking to a couple at the moment, yes, to be able to work with some of that data. But of course, they at the kind of R&D stage as well. So there's a video data, right? So, and then there's also the traditional GPS data. It's a huge amount of data, and there's terabytes live. So we're actively talking, we're actively looking at the data, and that's why we are hiring an underwriting person as well, because you have to do calculated bets at the beginning to start to get some traction, get to see the behavior. And we want to be winning this. And, you start from having some smart people around you who can work with you on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a very exciting time for you and the company. And we're excited to see how it grows, and definitely come on at some point in the future. If you've got anything to announce or anything, definitely come on. But I think we've run out of time, have we?
Yes, we are out of time.
Yeah. So look, thank you so much for joining us. And let's definitely get you back on.
Thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
I really wanted to get into... we just never have enough time. I wanted to get
Fresh
into
out of luck.
I know. I wanted to get into IPO, capital markets, because he's spoken
we should have talked about
I was
that.
looking at that.
He's spoken about New York being his preference,
Yeah.
but also we've got Pisces going on in the background, and I think Zego.
He mentioned interest in Pisces, is that right?
I think ClearScore, who's on next,
Or is this
Justin from
ClearScore?
ClearScore definitely did.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever said they're interested. but I think there's been reports that they are potentially interested.
Okay,
right.
But the
Okay.
context is that the government has been having meetings with the big founders of all the big fintechs to try and get their feedback, gauge their interest. So it doesn't. I don't think it carries much weight that they maybe have been to a couple of meetings with some politicians or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I think I read that everyone was kind of like, this is very poorly received.
Oh really? Yeah.
Like, I don't think it was like. I don't think it went well.
I mean, it's the same as like what Dan Bauer said last week. He was like, or a few weeks ago, he was just saying you got to follow the money. Like if you've got people on your cap table and you've got a fiduciary duty to
100%.
follow the money.
But you can imagine how that meeting goes in the boardroom. It's like, where should we IPO? It's like, which one makes the most money? It's like,
Exactly.
the US. Like,
Exactly.
okay, meeting adjourned. Like,
But,
there's no, like,
like you
also-
have investors that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need to provide for because they're your investors.
But I guess the point of Pisces is to enable these companies to sell their shares without
Yes.
having to go public, right? So it means they don't have to do a big IPO. If you want to get liquidity, you don't have to do a big IPO, which means you don't have to go to New York.
And it's expensive to do an IPO. So
Yeah, really expensive. So I think it's meant to be like an alternative to get some liquidity without doing an IPO.
But we talk to founders all the time that it's like you're either going to not do it or go full.
Exactly.
blown,
Like
right?
I think they tried to
This is
talk
kind
to
of-
like Revolut about it. And Revolut sold like $1 billion of secondaries
Yeah.
last year. Like they don't.
And it's like, why would
imagine
we
they need
like
it.
be on the fence? Let's like actually go crazy. And
Yeah.
Speaking of liquidity, Germany's N8N
Yes.
adds up a 1.5 billion valuation as Europe's AI startups draw investors. This is an article on the Financial Times. German software startup N8N is in talks to raise new funds at a more than 1.5 billion valuation, seeking to take advantage of growing investor interest in Europe's leading artificial intelligence groups. Mate, Europe is back.
Yeah.
These are some big numbers getting flung around here.
I think it says in there, I think they're doing like 40 million ARR.
Yeah, 40 million ARR.
Yeah. So those familiar with
230,000
fundraising
active
talks,
users.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the company
they-
generates 40 million annual recurring revenues, a metric popular with fast-growing startups. At the time of its last fundraising in March, N8N had more than 230,000 active users, and its annual recurring revenues had grown fivefold within the last year.
Yeah,
Fivefold.
I think that's what's
mad.
crazy is that they raised like 4 months ago on a $300 million valuation.
Wait, are they saying? So active
They
users-
previously raised 550 million euros, and it's so-called Series B.
Are they
55
5x
million,
it?
yeah.
Are they 5?
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Well, what is it?
I think we said 550.
And then they 55.
Crikey, they raised a 500 million Series B. That would be.
That would be crazy.
That would be a bit of a big one. Who are their previous investors? I'm trying to find. Raised 55 million, so-called Series B
Sequoia,
round. Yeah. Highland
First
Europe.
Minute,
Led by Highland Europe, backed
Yeah, this
by
one.
Sequoia HV Capital,
Phyllis.
First Minute Capital. Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of these come in. I think this is.
But it's interesting. I posted about it on LinkedIn. The post has got like 1,000 likes. People are really like popping off.
on your post.
Yeah. Some
dude,
people are
that's-
saying like there's one.
Shout out for the pop-off post.
Yeah. Check it out.
1,000 likes.
But someone's commented, which is the most liked comment, being like, the bubble will burst with catastrophic results for investors. Remember the ICO craze, the metaverse, the NFT craze.
Oh, you can't compare all this to like the
I know,
metaverse.
but
and
it's
all that stuff,
interesting,
like,
you know.
The only people
There was
that
like so
really,
much hype. There was obvious hype about that.
Mate,
Like,
people were
serious hype.
buying digital.
Yeah.
land. Like, I was actually like trying to buy some.
Yeah.
Like,
I bought some Star Wars like figurine. And
Yeah.
for like 250
Well, the
quid.
NFTs
And it's now gone like I don't know where it is. I have no idea where it is.
NFTs were like genuinely probably one of the maddest parts of my life ever. Like, I was grinding those things. Like, I was paying people on Fiverr to grind Discords for me. So they'd like the more that you'd say stuff.
You
in
got the
chat,
hustle culture.
Yeah, you got like XP, which means that you'd be on the whitelist. Like the initial, like, you'd have like initial coin offering. Like this was like an initial NFT offering where you
You
could
were
buy
deep in it.
Oh, dude, I had like a P&L, I had like an Excel sheet and everything.
Nice.
Yeah. Like, I lost like I didn't make as big a bag as I should have. Like how early I was, but mate, this thing was like it was all rigged as well. Like whatever you, so you had to get whitelist access onto these projects, and then you got it before it like sort of releases fully. So I could get it on like an initial NFT offering, and then I could sell it on the secondary market,
Which is
at
where it
OpenSea,
popped off,
Which
yeah.
is where honestly, so you'd mint the project for like 0.05 ETH, which at the time was something like I don't know $280 or something, or like I can't remember the exact price, but you could then just sell it on the secondary market at like 10x the next day. So whatever you spend, it's just like you just knew you were going to 10x your cash, and like.
And it was like such a short period of time between 10x, like tomorrow.
It was like it was like
yeah.
I had alarms set, so I'd go to sleep and I'd set alarms at like 3 a.m., 5 a.m. because like that's when the initial like offerings would be made. So you have like a 2-minute window to like buy the NFT. It's like a drop.
Yeah, it's like a drop.
It was a drop,
and then you cop it, and then you got it, and then like you're happy. I mean, yeah,
you'll pump and dump.
And then you pump and dump. You just pump that stuff and you dump that stuff. There was like a rule, a golden rule was like, because you'd always mint like 5. A golden rule was always like you want to keep like a moon bag. So like. You've got 5. You'll flip like 3 the next day as soon as it goes up onto the secondary market, kind of double your money, and then the next day you kind of send the other one. But you always want to hold one
just in case.
And I broke my rule once, and it just like it went bananas.
Oh really?
Project. Yeah, I think I was looking at like $175,000.
Oh my gosh!
And I fumbled it all.
So, and now everything's worth 0.
Mate, that was when I was working. I was just sat in the office every day. I was like checking the price of them when they were. I was just like, oh my gosh, like that's like a year and a half or more at the time. It was probably like I don't know, 2.5
several years of salary. Yeah. But I guess my point was that
tough one.
Even a company like this, which does seem legit, people love it, huge use case, 40 million of ARR. People are like, bubble.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't think it's unfair to say that,
but it's.
I think commenting on bubble on LinkedIn is like let's have a thought out argument here. Let's just not rage bait. But I do think that
but it's the most liked, so
yeah,
it's not like he or she's just commented that.
Oh wait, what? They've got the most.
They got the most likes.
The most liked of all the comments on my post is like only like 20 likes or something.
That's a lot of likes.
But like people are obviously
for a LinkedIn.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
People are here for it.
I might go like it actually. It's quite funny. Oh, that's good.
So in my post I talked about like we've had that one. We just had Fuse that became unicorn.
3 years after being founded.
3 years. Again, somebody was like bubble on that one as well.
Wait, who is this person?
There's someone else. It's actually someone else.
I'm getting trolled online.
But they're like a sort of like not quite renewable, but it's a really cool model. They are building their own solar farms.
Yes.
I supplies UK homes with cheaper and cleaner electricity.
Yeah. So
50,000 UK customers.
So they're like an energy provider, but they're also trying to own some of the energy production themselves.
Right, got you. So it makes it cheaper. Oh yeah, there you go. £200 a year. It's saving households.
Exactly, yeah. So it's trying to make it cheaper energy for everybody, but they're trying to own that like initial bit of infrastructure on. And when I spoke to Harvey Hodd from Riven Industries, and I read their amazing blog about the price of solar energy, and it's just the price is just absolutely, or the cost is just absolutely plummeting. Yeah. So they're betting on owning that part of the infrastructure, and then also just becoming like an energy provider like any other.
Got you.
But we're actually hoping to get him, Alan Chang, on the show. I think he's Revolut's employee number 3 or something.
Yeah.
He's the guy who's going to be presenting at the Builders and what are they called? Builders and Operators. No, early founders.
Well, there's 2.
Early Builders, Operators and Friends.
Early Builders, that's it.
Early Builders.
The Early Builders event in London.
Builders and Operators.
Oh, what, the Baptista's doing?
Yeah. I think he said it's Alan Chang, who was like the 3rd employee at Revolut. It's his startup. So they're doing like 50 million in annual revenue.
And is it Chris? Yeah. Charles Orr. He was also an exec at Revolut.
Yeah, very early Revolut people.
Yeah.
And now.
So they're eyeing up like a
3,
unicorn valuation.
I think they raised £7 million last week on a $955 million valuation, which seems weird.
Oh, that's massive, isn't it?
But they've raised a lot. I think it was just like they raised a small bit of money. It wasn't a big round. It wasn't publicly announced.
Yeah.
It was like a small bit of money. I don't know what for.
Here we go. The pair have raised a total of 75 million from investors, including a recent funding round of 7.5 million that is thought to have valued the company at more than $1 billion. That was a 7.5 million pounds.
Yeah.
That is thought to have valued the company at more than $1 billion.
Interesting, yeah.
Wow. Fuse supplies 50,000 UK homes with electricity, having won over consumers with its promises of cheaper, cleaner energy.
Yeah. I posted about it. My dad texted me being like, I signed up to Fuse yesterday.
No, mate, you should ping him, man.
And I was like, wow, of course.
You are customer acquisition channel.
Yeah, that's me, man. That's me.
What you make per
give me a slice.
Give me a slice of that Fuse pie.
So next on we have got Justin from ClearScore.
Should we mention our sponsors just quickly before we get Justin coming?
Give them a shout out.
Give them a shout out.
Give them a shout out.
So we're sponsored by Spectre and Checkout.com. So Spectre, be the reason your fund wins the deal of the decade. Harness the power of live data and AI-driven analysis to outsmart the competition and make confident decisions in private markets.
I'm literally on it right now.
Try Spectre.com.
Right
we're literally using. I mean, that's why we have laptops here. Like,
I see Francisco has said, "Welcome to Spectre." He's got a little wavy face in the bottom right now.
He always
he
always comments
grinding
on our stream.
Oh really?
Yeah.
No, I've been chatting with this guy a lot.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
And also Checkout.com.
Head of growth.
Huh? I think in operations or something.
Operations.
I think he's an ops. Yeah.
Shout
out Francisco. Absolute legend.
Checkout.com, I post about them all the time. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I bang on about them just because they're an amazing European fintech. They kind of provide so much of the payments infrastructure behind some of the biggest tech companies in the world. eBay, Vinted.
It's where the world checks out.
It's where the world checks out.
Guys.
They've had an amazing year. Their revenue growth is like 40% year over year. US, specifically North America, is growing really, really quickly. They've just opened or expanded like a new San Francisco office, I think a new office in Canada or something. They are just absolutely crushing it.
So why wouldn't you join the best companies in the world?
Yeah.
You know, eBay, Netflix, Klarna, Sony, Deliveroo, Vinted, ASOS. They're all using it, so why don't you?
And they're profitable. And so they're a super cool company, one of the biggest European tech companies out there.
Yeah, we're super excited to be sponsored by them. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. We're looking to get, some senior people from Checkout.com on the show, so let's make it happen.
Yeah. What have we got on Justin just before he joins?
Justin,
interesting stuff. Founder and CEO of ClearScore, which was founded in 2015. Huge company.
Yeah, this is one we were hyped about when we found out that Justin
cool.
was coming on. We were pumped for that.
They're in South Africa, Australia, Canada, and maybe a few other places. Haven't actually quite got to the US, or interested to ask what the thoughts are around that. Quite interesting. But they're clearing over 100 million in ARR and is profitable. Rumored to be eyeing up an IPO, which we'll definitely ask about. So that'd be interesting.
They're the ones that have been rumored to be interested or linked to Pisces.
Yes.
I think he's having some difficulty joining. He said that he's on the link now, but we're not seeing him. So I've just sent him the link again.
Do we have...
But fun fact, Justin and I went to the same school.
No way.
Yeah.
Does he know that?
Yeah, we spoke about it on LinkedIn.
You had a bit of a back and forth.
Yeah.
Same secondary school.
Yeah.
Was that like a cult? Did you message him and be hey man?
I think I'd message.
Those days.
We weren't there at the same time.
Okay, you remember that school? Yeah.
But I think he messaged me actually. I think we just.
You cover ClearScore sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I always talk about them. It's one of those companies that's just like a really cool UK fintech, doing really well, reaching maturity,
smashing it. Yeah.
So I talk about them a lot.
Well, in the meantime, should we, while we're waiting, hopefully the link works, should we talk about
mate, let's talk about
Microsoft, I think?
The Mercedes-Benz. Dude, this is so funny. It's like...
It's such a weird play, but...
Yeah, I saw like a tweet and it was like, no one. And I was like, literally no one. And it was like, breaking news, Mercedes-Benz integration with Teams. It was just so out of the blue. I love how this though manages to sort of like just break through the noise with everything that's going on at the moment. Like this comes, and they broke through the noise because it's getting memed. Like it's getting absolutely memed.
Yeah, but that's how you win these days. I mean,
so true actually. It's controversial in a way.
And we were talking about Clearly, that's how they win. So
yeah, what's going on with those guys, man? I'm thinking. I'm just like I think they are just slowly dying. I'm not gonna lie.
Do you think?
I just think that
from what they've been saying, they're just like.
Yeah, but
I think
I don't know, man.
Did they hit a 5 million ARR or something?
But yeah, and then we're gonna, and then in a few weeks it'll be 10 million ARR.
But look, are they not right? Like attention is,
Have you seen
the hot commodity?
Anyone, like any live demo or any video of anyone using their product, apart from the intern on TVPN? Any videos on Twitter? No one's talking about the product. They're just talking about the people.
Yeah,
the people. But
it must be converting, right? If they've got 5 million ARR,
yeah,
it must be converting.
And we've got Justin coming in as we speak.
Any minute now.
Yeah, just trying to get a thumbs up from our producer.
Okay, Justin, welcome.
Ready to go. Ooh.
Hello.
Sound check, maybe. We can't hear you.
It's fine. We're live. It happens all the time. We still can't hear him.
I think he can hear us though. Okay, yeah, double thumbs
hear
up
us.
on the classic universal message received sign.
We can't hear you still, Justin. Just give us 1 sec.
Having some difficulties.
Annoying. Okay, let's...
Do you think it's our side, or why don't you try leaving and joining again, Justin?
Yeah, maybe try and run it back.
Right, let's see if
Okay,
it's
he's
works.
left.
I think we're good on our end.
Yeah, we haven't had any problems.
No, it's been running
smooth. We had to have a little bit of a bump, in the show.
Yeah, no, it's expected, right?
Exactly.
It's expected.
Here we go. We can hear you. Hi, Justin. How's it going? Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Doing awesome.
We are thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
We are pumped.
We ask this of all our guests. As we start, just give us a quick intro into who you are, what you're building.
Justin Basini, I'm the CEO and co-founder of the ClearScore Group, be going 10 years this year, and we help 25 million users around the world manage their credit through our financial marketplace, which is under the brand ClearScore. And then we have another app called DriveScore, which is a telematics based app, which allows you to buy car insurance based on how good a driver you are. And then the third business we have is Data One, which is our open banking business.
Amazing. Now, look, you've been around the block 10 years. You're like one of the coolest UK fintechs around. How have things changed over the last 10 years?
Well, there's a lot more risk now. So I always say to entrepreneurs, you should enjoy the early years, because the early years are really hard, but there's no risk, right? You're not making much revenue. You're probably spending other people's money, probably hoping to do that really well. When you reach our size, we hold the data of 25 million users around the world. We employ close to 500 people. And so, it becomes more risky, and therefore you need to tread more carefully. You need to have more risk, ways of managing risk. So it becomes a different type of job. It becomes much more sort of, focused on really trying to make sure that our strategy is right versus the early years of just do, go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on DriveScore there, right? That was a new product. I think you launched that in January this year. What was the thinking about that product expansion? And also just tell us how's it been since launching it 6 months ago?
Yeah, so we launched it. I mean, we've been playing around with it for about 18 months, 2 years. But we really started to push it this year. What at the heart of what our business does is really we put consumers in control of their data. And so we've done that really, really successfully with credit reports and scores with ClearScore. But we wanted to do that, and we want to do that over the next 10 years in multiple different verticals. And so what we developed with DriveScore was a way that consumers could basically get in control of their driving data. And so what we do is we use an app to basically monitor how good a driver they are, and then to put them in control of that data. And then if they're a good driver, they can share that with a car insurer, and typically it reduces their premium by about 10 to 15%. So if you're a young person, 25 years old, you've got a £2,000, £3,000 car, you're probably paying something like 1,500 quid for that insurance. It's a lot of money, and it's gone up a lot over the last few years. And so if you could save 150, 200 quid, which often we do deliver for people, it's a great proposition. And so that proposition is resonating. We have about 625,000 people who've signed up for that. And we're now working with about 80 insurers.
Amazing. Sounds like it's been a great success. Yeah, I hadn't realised you've been kind of working in the background for so long on it. It's interesting. We literally just had Sten from Zego. So he was talking about a very similar proposition and world of tracking data to bring insurance costs down. It's a really, really interesting space. There's lots we want to get into.
I'd love to ask that. Just something that when we were researching you, Justin, before you came on, I've noticed how long you've been in sort of brand development and marketing. I mean, global head of marketing and comms at global banking at Deutsche Bank for nearly 4 years, then VP of marketing at Brandon Capital 4 years, chief product marketing at Zap for 2 years. There's so much marketing here. I'd love to know what I'm always looking at that like that's your 10,000 hours sort of skill set throughout your whole career. What are some of the lessons you've learned? Like these are different companies that you've sort of led marketing themes at. Like what are the core themes of marketing that you've learned here, and what stayed consistent throughout the wall?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, look, marketing, I think nowadays is far too sort of channel based. If you take a step back, what marketing should really be doing is understanding and predicting consumer needs, and then really understanding what are those consumer needs and how you can create a superior product against those consumer needs, and then be able to brand that in a way that is attractive to people, and then be able to use that brand to advertise and to get people to be interested in it, and then hopefully purchase the product and basically become a loyal customer. That's really the marketing cycle. And, I was taught that right at the start of my career, when I started my career, 30 years ago now with Procter & Gamble. So Procter & Gamble are a big US consumer packaged goods company. So Ariel, washing powder, and Pantene shampoo, and oil of Ulay, and all of that sort of stuff. And so, and those principles don't change. And so, the marketing aspect of any business should be really about trying to understand how you are going to deliver value to a set of customers and extract a return for the delivery of that value. And that's at the heart of marketing. And what the shame of marketing now, because of all of the channel specialisms, is that actually you just have a lot of marketers who are very focused on digital marketing. I'm a Google specialist, or I'm a Meta specialist, or I'm a CRM specialist. And I spend a lot of time working with our marketing teams and just talking to marketeers generally about those principles, because it's those strategic principles which should be at the heart of marketing in every company.
Interesting. I wanted to touch on, going on marketing, and you said trust is crucial. We were speaking earlier about the controversy with T-App and vibe coding, and how so many apps are coming out and you just don't know which ones to trust anymore. Knowing what you know about marketing and kind of the success, how would young entrepreneurs kind of drive that trust in their marketing, especially when all of these kind of apps are coming here, there and everywhere?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the sort of vibe coding and AI and all of that is great, because it'll mean that lots and lots of people can produce products against lots and lots of ideas that in the past maybe wouldn't be viable. So that's a really, really good thing. But the thing to remember, and we did this really well in ClearScore and are now doing it in DriveScore, is I have never liked the concept of minimum viable products. So you might have heard of this MVP. And, in the world of vibe coding and AI and all of this, you can spin up stuff very, 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 very quickly. The thing is, especially with consumer businesses, but I think it's also true with B2B, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And so if that product is not a very good product, if there are spelling mistakes on the copy, if the logo looks like it's been put together by, a GCSE student, right? What that says is, it says, well, I'm not really that proud of this product, right? So what I talk a lot about is make a minimum lovable product, an MLP. Okay. And what a minimum lovable product is it's something which really delivers that in a really cool way. Now, it might be only a small thing rather than a wide thing, but it's a really small thing, but it does it in a brilliant way that a consumer can say, I love that thing and it worked really, really well for me. They're going to recommend it. And that, I think, is the real heart of it. And if you do that well, you create brand trust and you create something which you're proud of, and hopefully your consumer sees that, and as they interact with it, they start to really like it a lot. So think about minimum lovable products as a way of creating that great first impression, and it's that gives you the opportunity to create trust.
Amazing. There's a real opportunity there for Lovable to come in and steal that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the vibe coding apps raised 200 million called Lovable. So this should be their new tagline.
One of the things we wanted to talk about was open banking. Right? You seem to be making a big bet on open banking. Can you tell us more about why you're going into this space, or what do you think about the future of this space, and why is it important for the ClearScore group?
Yeah, well, financial services, if you want to retail financial services really well, you need to have a relationship with consumers' data. Because the reality is that the days of a bank manager making a decision on whether you get a mortgage or a loan is, that went 30, 40 years ago. Now it is data running through computers, and computer says yes or computer says no. And so the data that runs through that is really important. And so the credit score and report is a critical set of data. And so consumers seeing that, understanding that, fixing that when there's problems with it, that's really, really important. But what's happening now, and it will happen, I think, in the future, is that more and more data will come into the decision of whether you will get access to a particular financial services product and what price you will pay for that product. And so credit reports has been a great thing and allows credit to flow. But now we're starting to see lots more data start to come in. So who you are employed by, for example, your open banking data, so the record of your transactions and how your bank account looks. All of these data come into a decision on whether you're going to get that mortgage or going to get that loan. And so this alternative data and open banking in the UK is a fantastic example of that change that was driven by the competition authorities, 10 years ago, to really open up that data asset. And so many businesses have developed off the back of that. Now 1 in 5 lending decisions that happen on ClearScore will have some element of open banking and alternative data in it. And what that means that consumers that might not have got access to credit before or might have paid more are getting access to that credit, and it's cheaper. And that's a great thing.
Yeah, amazing, absolutely. And you've done so well in the sort of like the credit marketplace. You're now looking at the car marketplace. What's next? Like, where can you see this model of using data to bring down prices and give a better deal to your consumers? What other opportunities or verticals can you see this working in that maybe you're thinking about 1, 2, 5 years down the line?
Yeah, great question. Well, what we want to help people to do is master their borrowing, okay? And so, our credit marketplace is fantastic if you're shopping for a credit card or an unsecured personal loan or car finance. It's really, there are so many exclusive offers, it's super easy to apply. There's loads of financial education. But if you think about master your borrowing, there's a lot of other borrowing products that currently we don't really offer. So we bought a business called Arrow Financial at the end of last year. It completed in January. And what that allows us to do is move into second charge mortgages. And ultimately, the mortgage, rent reporting, all of that stuff we want to bring in. And so what you'll see over the next 5 years from ClearScore is that we'll start to basically provide products and do what we've done in credit cards and unsecured personal loans for all types of lending products.
Very exciting. Can't wait to see it. I'm conscious we're already over time, but like if we can have you for a few more minutes, one of the things that we're super excited to talk about is the future of ClearScore Group, and also how you're seeing ClearScore Group's future in the context of the UK capital markets, the sort of like the death of the IPO in the UK. Everyone's looking to the US. We're seeing initiatives like Pisces, which like ClearScore has been like rumored to be interested in or linked to. What's your take on the overall UK capital markets? Where do you think, ClearScore Group, or how is ClearScore thinking about potentially exiting or IPO down the line?
Well, I never really think of it as an exit. I know everybody uses that word, but really it's just, it's the start of another chapter. And what I want for ClearScore is I want ClearScore to be delivering user value and partner value to the financial institutions for many more decades to come. And so I think about how do I continue that journey? And we're not slavish about the next step of the journey being an IPO, but it's definitely an option. And given IPOs take quite a long time to get organized, we're in a process of preparing and maturing our processes so that we may be at some point able to do that. And, I made a comment in the press 6 months ago now about the UK and London being a obvious market for us to list in should we choose to do that, and it got quite a lot of play. But I still stick by that because I think it is entirely obvious to me that as a UK business, we have benefited from being in the UK and all of the all of the way that the consumer operates here and the way that the regulator operates. That's been great for us. Our business is mostly UK. We're a household brand in the UK. And given the size of the business, if I was to go to the US, I would be a very small stock. And most fintechs, apart from maybe the Revoluts of the world, would be UK fintechs would be pretty small in the context of the US market. And that has ramifications on coverage, whether you get into the tracker, passive funds and things like that. So for us, focusing on a UK listing is the obvious thing that we would do. And that's what that would be a great story for us and a great endpoint. And, all of the changes that are being driven around the capital markets today, I think are absolutely great. And I think the innovation that is coming through, and you mentioned Pisces, I think we should be applauding that, because the more that the stock markets can innovate and create new opportunities for liquidity and for capital to flow, that is their customer value, right? And they should be doing that more and more. And I think Pisces is a great innovation. Again, we're not slavish about doing it or not doing it, but the idea that you might have access to a market of institutional investors where you can start to get your message out there and help to explain what your business is, and then have a window to provide secondary liquidity for employees or current investors, I think is a very attractive proposition.
No, that's amazing to hear. We talk to a lot of late stage founders who are looking to get some liquidity, and yeah, it's amazing to hear like a pro UK, pro Pisces, and the innovation that the government is pushing. So yeah, we love to hear it, and it's super exciting. And we're following it all closely. And it kind of feels like there just needs one or two companies to take the leap, and others will follow suit if they go well. And it feels like there's a real appetite for it. So we do think listing in the UK could still be a great success for these homegrown, well-known household names. But look, Justin, I'm conscious that we've already taken more of your time than we agreed. So thank you so much for joining us. We've absolutely loved having you. If at any point you've got news you want to announce, things you want to talk about, you're always welcome back.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. And I think you guys are doing a great job, because we need more media banging the drum for the UK and for the great stuff that's happening in tech and fintech out of the UK, and taking a positive entrepreneurial type approach, I think is really important. It's not common in our media, and so good for you guys. Wish you all the best with the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Justin.
Thanks.
You
Cheers.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Love
Great
to hear
guy.
that.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
go.
nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he's right. They're sort of straddling that valuation or potential market cap range where it is too small for the US. Even Monzo at 6 billion is probably just big enough to make it work. But you see so many of these big fintechs, people like Alaka Bank or Oak North Bank, ClearScore, even people like Zego, that are being valued or currently valued, roughly $500,000 to 2 billion or something like that. Such small fish for US tech.
But also he has a point, ClearScore is a very household name in the UK. I'm not saying Revolut or Monzo.
But Monzo is, it's only been in the UK.
Yeah.
Very recently, it tried to expand into the US and it didn't work, and they're trying to do it again now. But Monzo's got like 12 million UK customers. It's one of the most well-known UK fintechs, and I think that's why there's been some tension in their board about where to list, because they have like 12 million customers who know the brand, who love
I saw something recently that like Revolut was like blocked by someone internally.
That's like they're in this transitional phase as part of getting their UK banking license.
Yeah.
So they got granted the initial thing this time last year, and then it's called the mobilization phase, which lasts a year. And at the end of that point, you're meant to then enter the next phase. I think maybe at that point you become a proper bank.
Yeah.
But for some reason they weren't fulfilling the things that they were meant to be fulfilling, and therefore they weren't going to get their license. So Rachel Reeves stepped in and tried to organise a conversation between who was it, the governor of the Bank of England and Revolut.
Someone had to
and he stopped it. And he was like, no, this is not. I think it's something to do with like the separation of powers, and they shouldn't be interfering with the regulatory affairs. Yeah. But Barney from Clio,
I think that's where I was getting my information.
Yeah, he tweeted about it,
and
yeah, and it was just like, this is ridiculous. Revolut is like the biggest
we're like
tech company.
It's an own goal,
and we're just like hampering them at every single step of the way.
Yeah.
Insane. In other equally important news, Astronomer has hired Gwyneth Paltrow as an interim CMO. For those who live under a rock and maybe didn't see, but the Astronomer CEO was obviously caught at a Coldplay concert having an affair. To be honest, like as Astronomer like found themselves in a position where like they sell like Apache like workflow, Airflow, something, I can't remember, some sort of B2B thing. But they found themselves in a position where like the whole world was looking at your business like imagine if you have the whole world's attention.
Yeah, what do you do?
You have to do something cool or like something that like sort of rides the virality. It's literally it's a gift, right?
Yeah. I just think imagine like Gwyneth Paltrow like I don't know, going for dinner and be like, yo, I just got called up by whoever astronomer asking me to be there.
I mean, no, but it's perfect, right? You know, she is married to Chris Martin.
Wait. She was married, right?
Oh, is it?
That's why.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
previously married.
Previously married. I think that's why it's even better. It's like the other
there's
half
another layer
in
there as well. That's even better.
It's like the nail in the coffin.
But no, I thought the whole thing was like actually pretty expertly handled by the PR crisis.
Done well. I mean, like they've never had the amount of eyes they had on their company.
And the video was really good, but you know, it was all Ryan Reynolds' marketing company.
Was it?
No, what? Dude, how deep does this thing
Which
go?
makes sense, you know, it's very on his sort of brand.
Ryan Reynolds.
So, you know, his big
awesome.
marketing agency that he, you know, all his adverts always do so well or whatever.
I didn't even know he had one.
Yeah, like, you know.
So he made the deal happen.
I don't know what sort of, I don't know, maybe they called him up and they're like, how can we put a good spin on this? But that's the celebrity connection, I think. He was able to connect the dots and come
Ryan
up.
Reynolds, like,
and the video was really funny.
It was good.
The video was really good. It's just like a minute, it's 2 questions.
It was perfect. Short, sweet, snappy, and also like still that like has viral aspects to it as well because it's so weird and bizarre and just kind of fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And it obviously was going to blow up on X.
And it was it was quite tactful. It wasn't, you know, people were talking about it a lot in the sense of, you know, what about their families and the implications.
I thought it was of good taste.
It was of good taste. They managed to do it well in a way that wasn't, I don't know, disrespectful.
Yeah, as like CEO-esque cheating scandals that go viral and the response from B2B SaaS companies with those scandals go.
Yeah.
I thought it was good taste.
There's
not many of them.
Yeah. They handled it really
set
well.
the etiquette bar.
Yeah. But in the days in between that happening, everyone was like, where's their CMO at? Like, why are they not doing something?
Yeah.
They're missing an opportunity.
Yeah, but I guess the CMO was working.
And then they ended up, I think they smashed it in the end.
No, very good, very weird.
Just before Kitty Mayo jumps on.
What else we got?
Should we talk about Anthropic?
Yeah, this is mad.
Pretty insane. 170 billion valuation, dollar valuation.
Trying to open our notes. But yeah, it's insane. So like I think the $5 billion, Iconic's raising a $5 billion round with them that gives them 170 billion valuation. And I cannot see any of this stopping at any point in time.
Yeah.
Like I was seeing as these are sort of popping up, I'm sort of like live trying to find, you know, last night they're on GPT, I was kind of going through like stocks that are related to like the infrastructure associated with like AI and these like data centers and building all this stuff up. And I was thinking like, oh cool, gonna like get in here, gonna like get these stocks on a nice, you know, bit of alpha going down. And obviously they're already like all mooning because they're in a very efficient place. Like how am I like, you know, this is always priced in. But I just don't see this stopping. Like I don't think there is and it's the same. I think I saw a great reaction from, I think it was Nikita Bear, who's like the head of product at X, talking about. Someone was saying, you know, why is Zuckerberg giving, you know, these crazy offers? Like how can like why are they doing that? Like how can they just be forking out this much cash? You know, we've seen like £1 billion over 4 years offered
like
to
10,
someone in
10 engineers
in Thinking Machines Labs, and
most over 100, well, all over 100 million, a few 200 million, one or two 500
which
million,
is mad,
and
right?
then 1 billion, which obviously is like, you know, it's not just straight cash. It's going to be.
I think they get a big.
It's going to be stock.
I think they get a big signing on bonus, and then there's like a lot of like vesting over 4 years or whatever.
And she and I thought it was insane, but you have to think like 2 things here. And his reply was amazing. So if someone's, you know, why are they doing all this? Why are they putting all this money out there? His reply was like, how much money would you pay today for infinite money in the future? Basically, like you achieve AGI, and like you then just become like the most powerful, like, you know, business on earth. Like the price of everything just goes to zero. But another thing that I was looking at the other day was like people were seeing people. One person in particular reject this offer of $1 billion paid out over the course of 4 years. That would be like a cash stock equity split. but they've turned them down. And it's like, you have to think, what's the opportunity cost of the opportunity gain associated with that? What do they have on the table?
Yeah, you'll never see those counter offers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Those
yeah.
counter offers are going to be completely private.
Yeah, I'll have that later.
I
But
think it's just the craziness of turning down $1 billion is just insane.
It's insane. It's like the place you're going has to suck, or the place you are has to be sick.
Yeah, but then again, it was like the argument was like they already have enough money, so they're now operating out of a mission-driven thing, not a financial.
Well, we don't know, right? You don't know what stock they're being offered. You know, it's someone like OpenAI or Thinking Machines. Yeah. What stock are they being given to not take the Meta offer or the cash or whatever it is? They're being offered something, right?
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Hello, Kitty.
Kitty in the studio.
Welcome. Welcome to the European Tech Show. How are you doing?
Very well indeed. How are you all doing?
Very good, thank you. Congratulations on getting the first 6 out. Like, we love to see it. You've obviously been working on this for like some time. Like, how does it feel to get the first 6 out?
Well, I mean, it's tremendously exciting, and actually for us, like the thing that we're most excited about is for the teams to be able to actually start, communicating with the people they deserve to, and. Like these teams, they're not necessarily going out to raise immediately. Most of them aren't. Like most of them are continuing to build. Like this is almost like us announcing the start of their journey, and we're kind of excited for them to, start building their profiles, building their brands, and becoming kind of the titans of the European early stage building scene.
Yeah, super exciting. And looking at these 6 companies, what kind of stage are they at? Have any of them built products that they're already selling? Are they still in that very, very early stage of trying to pull something together? And is there a range across the 6?
Yeah, I mean, totally. It's an eclectic bunch in some ways, because you've got Alex, for example, who's building humanoid robots. He's been building the actual, the hardware, software, the data sets for the last 10 months in a workspace he's managed to borrow from a founder in Athens. And so he's got like a full functioning product. But it's not an easy product to immediately deploy in the real world, and so he's still got a lot of work to do. Then we've got the Zelify team, who have a product that's up and running. They have paying customers already. Agnesa, who's building brain-computer interfaces to control robots, she's got proof of concept, and she is working on early customers. But she's been building at the company for 2 months now. Most of them are a couple of months into the company building process. Like many of them have been fascinated by the tech and have been building similar products from a very young age. Like Agnesa built her first robot when she was 14. Wow. Alex built his first robot when he was 15. Like they make honestly, it makes you feel like a massive underachiever. All of them started doing something kind of mega when they were 14. Like Zelify guys, they had a it's a video game, Counter-Strike. They had a Counter-Strike cheat that they exploited. They were making
always starts at Counter-Strike.
If they're on CS at that age and they're cheating the modding stuff.
They were making money when I think they made 150 euros in a year when they were 14.
That's crazy.
And they reinvested that money in the business, which is, to their credit.
Awesome.
You must have met some absolutely outstanding people over the last few months. Like, how many of these, I guess, like how many people have you met, and how did you kind of choose these 6?
I would say we've had thousands of applications.
Wow.
Basically every country in Europe. The countries we didn't get, I think we haven't had anyone from Andorra yet. Vatican City, certainly not. We've had countries like, Moldova, countries that you wouldn't necessarily go to source from, but you have really, really interesting people applying from there. I've probably done, I'd say maybe getting on for 500 interviews. First round interviews. Harry thinks I'm a complete psycho because I will stack my day with 15-minute slots just so I can interview as many as possible. Because for me, the early stage interviewing is as much discovery about what's happening in different ecosystems as it is about making sure I'm meeting as many people as possible. Because I don't really know what good looks like in each place because I don't have a great mental model for who the best engineer in Moldova is. So I kind of want to meet the person who applies for Moldova. And so, loads of people working on very, very wide-ranging things. The thing that's been really interesting has been we've had lots of applications from things which are in the immediate term, far more successful businesses, making a lot of money, very, very fast growing, but kind of ChatGPT wrappers doing like one thing that's gone very viral in a specific niche. Like this generation, like really understand how to go viral within a particular customer segment. But then the hard thing is like understanding whether those founders are actually going to have what it takes to build a product, or like, you know, the next product, the thing that actually takes them to an enormous scale, or whether they're going to just build like a really profitable small company. And so that's been really interesting. The thing that's been like the thing that defines like these teams versus like many of the companies and the founders who seemed awesome, but you know, but didn't make it. Where with these teams, like there's a world in which each one of them changes the world in a pretty meaningful and enormous way, and that feels like a very important filter function for us.
And they also seem super technical. You know, it's not. Maybe I was looking through them all, but there's a lot of hardware, a lot of people building very difficult.
A lot of consumer hardware, which is like the hardest thing. Impossible level. You know? Can't get harder than that.
Was that intentional? Were you looking for people building really hard things or deep tech, or did it just happen that those were the best founders you met?
That it wasn't intentional. Like, our thesis is to find. I mean, yes, like technical founders is part of our thesis, but to find like hugely ambitious people at a very early stage in their career. And the thing that struck us, and maybe this is. I mean, I'll tell you the story about Alex, because what Alex had decided, like when he was like 15, maybe younger, when GPT-2 came out, he like read about it and he was like, I'm not going to be, I'm too late to be able to do like frontier research and change the world in sort of like the software applications of AI. But he was like, there is time for me to build something like truly meaningful in hardware. And so that's kind of, for him, it was a timing thing. And I think if Alex was applying to Project Europe like 5 years ago, like he would probably be working on cutting edge AI. I mean, he's still working on cutting edge AI, but like embodied AI. I think also like for us, we have been really excited by the builders we've met who have been like building from a very early age, who had that, you know, you can just do things moment really, really early on. And for many of them, they got very excited about building stuff that could interact with the real world pretty early. And so, you know, it's not necessarily been a thesis, but I think actually it's kind of a function of like really, really like early ambition to want to build like tangible, like, real things, and actually also have this this kind of like unjaded view of the world where you're like, yeah, I will do the hardest thing. I know it's going to be pretty much impossible, but I have the energy to do it. Like now is the time where I want to either like build something that changes the world or like fail in such a way that would be movie worthy. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess like nobody at 18 dreams of building like a B2B SaaS, right? Like, you know, like.
No, actually, to be fair, Nils and Marcus building Zellify.
Yeah.
I mean, they're stone cold hustlers. They're insane. I love.
They have to win. They have to win. I wanted to ask something else as well. Going back to when you guys launched, this launch was everywhere. You could not escape Project Europe, no matter where you were looking. Right, there were articles everywhere. It was brilliant. I think it was something like 14,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is a hard place to get followers within a day and a half, 2 days. And we saw stats on how many applications you guys got. I think it was something around like, I mean, Harry was just sort of live tweeting all this stuff out. It was like 1,000 the next day, and then like 1,500, then 2,000. Like, it was just insane. What was it like experiencing that and being at the epicenter of that? It must have been crazy, right?
I mean, it was experiencing the Harry Stebbings effect.
That's a good term to be coined, by the way.
I got a message just as I was joining this call from Harry saying, you need to turn followers on LinkedIn. Like, this is not like the building followers and the social media clout is not the game I've been playing before, but actually it's a fascinating one to learn from Harry. In terms of the launch, it was the week before I officially started. I was on like gardening leave between two jobs, and I was actually I was mountaineering in Georgia, down by the Russian border. And I was at the top of a mountain
during the launch. It's like the worst place to be.
I had crumbs of 3G, and my phone was exploding. I got something like 2,500 LinkedIn connection requests, which is, I probably should have had followers turned on, in the span of about an hour.
What?
And wow. I mean, it was. I was like, oh shit, this is really happening. This is definitely real. This isn't just a project. I think, one, it was like a phenomenally well coordinated launch. Like Harry architected it like superbly, but also the timing was like spot on. I got a message from a friend earlier saying like Project Europe has really captured the zeitgeist. And yes, I think we're doing a brilliant job, but also like this is something that people so desperately want. And the reason that it matters so much to us to be able to tell the stories beautifully in film, and we've got this amazing team who are working on the film with us, is like we're not just telling the stories so that like founders want to like, join the future cohorts, but it's actually because many of the Project Europe backers or people in the broader ecosystem want to be told stories to inspire them. They want to see these like really, really like, brave, ambitious kids doing awesome things. And I think that there's this like, flywheel that we can tap into where like it might not be, I don't know, it might be a professor or a parent who sees something inspiring that the Project Europe team's doing, and they might then encourage like their kid, their student, the person in their team to like actually go all in on the thing, and you can gradually change like mindset and culture that way. So we're not just thinking about this as marketing materials; we're actually kind of thinking this far more as a real movement to change mindset.
Yeah, and we speak to founders and investors. Every week we say the same thing, which is to do with like the risk aversion in Europe compared to the US, and it like you say, it trickles down from VCs and investors who are generally more risk averse. They want to see experienced founders with real traction, all the way to parents who are like pushing their children into university and grad schemes. I thought it was really interesting that I think you mentioned that I think like 5 out of 6 either dropped out of university or never went to university in the first place.
It was 9 out of 11.
Oh, 9 out of 11 was that it? Yeah. Which is just like...
And then we did have a last minute edition of the Zero team who all got like the best aerospace degrees from the best university in Portugal. So luckily that was published before it was diluted by an extra 3 very highly qualified.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Obviously, the universities they went to, the degrees that they did are absolutely cracked. Like if you're going to study anything, you may as well study like
astrophysics. Yeah. That's insane. We need to do a day where we just sort of we grill these people 10 minutes long because like their backgrounds.
Actually, the Portuguese team, they I don't know if any of you have listened to it. I don't know if you speak Portuguese, but they had the best, I think the best, like the most listened to science podcast in Portugal or in the Portuguese speaking world.
Wow, amazing!
Putting a company together.
I love these.
Like about aerospace, but they're awesome guys.
And I presume that's what you're looking for. You're just looking for those like little nuggets that you're just like, oh, that's such a weird
like
thing
the
to have.
stuff.
Especially at such a young age as well.
Yeah. It's like
need
Marcus
to find something.
at PKI. Like he was like top 100 League of Legends player.
Yeah.
And it's like that's just
you
a
need
cool
to find that weirdness.
thing. Yeah, that's just like a cool outline.
Yeah, we've got Liam Fuller on next, who I don't know if you saw this story, that 17-year-old who just raised like $1 million.
This guy's so crazy and I love him so much.
I was in Ireland last week with Jade, and everyone was talking about Liam Fuller.
No way.
We patched that morning, and then we were with some people from the Dog Patch team, and they're like, "Oh, we need to get back because RTE are coming in to interview Liam." Liam is like the name in Ireland at the moment.
Oh, awesome. Well, hopefully he can get us to blow up on LinkedIn.
Irish X.
It's our Project Europe, man. Irish X.
Yeah, he's become like a national icon in like a week.
Dude, I'm not surprised. Cool. Like this guy, like I remember seeing him go viral like 1.5 years, 2 years ago when he was in his bathroom stall.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Like, he's in
the
a
most
school
nonchalant
uniform.
guy as well.
But I think that's the Kitty's point around like you can change the culture because people get so excited about it. You hear these stories.
It's almost easier to change the culture in like sort of like small ecosystems, and this is kind of what we're seeing in Stockholm at the moment in like such an enormous way. Like the population of Sweden is, we'll have to get number crunch on this, about 6 million, I think. And so when you have like a standout success story like Anton, but Anton sort of came out of Sana, so Joel first, then Anton, then like Lovable exploding, and it's like if you spend any time in Stockholm, like the ambition profile of the city has changed. There's this amazing community called Founder House, and they've basically just got like a floor in an office block in kind of like the hub where you've got like the Voi offices, I think the Klarna office is pretty nearby, and they're just like pumping out these ridiculously high ambition builders, engineers, founders. But in London, like you can have like these outstanding success stories, but actually the city's so big and like the finance industry is like the real titan, that you kind of lose these like crazy success stories. And so, yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity for these like small, densely populated little kind of ecosystems like Dublin, Stockholm, to have they'll have a far quicker cultural transformation, I guess.
And I think what you're doing so well is making sure that you're capturing it on video, and actually in a cool way.
Yeah.
How do you see that evolving? Do you see like, I don't know, you creating like mini episodes here, there, and everywhere, in all these different cities in Europe? Is that how do you see it in the next 5 years with Project Europe?
Yeah, good point. So we'll have like every 2 months we'll bring all the sort of current teams together in one place. So the next one we're going to Stockholm, and the one after that we're going to Helsinki just before Slush. And for us, it's really important to go somewhere where we have like a critical mass of Project Europe partners as well. Like it was quite tempting for us to think, oh, let's just go and like rent some like beautiful hotel in Italy and spend some nice time there in the Tuscan Hills. But actually, we kind of want to go to places where we can really like bring the Project Europe network together in real life. And during those like 3-day sprints, we'll just collect as much content as we can about the teams, about the things they're doing, about the wider community, etc. So that we can kind of like continue to share that over the intervening months, because we're not spending, we're distributed across the whole of Europe. We're not spending loads and loads of time in person, and I don't think like recorded Zoom calls are particularly moving or inspiring.
It's not great content. Yeah.
But yeah, no, so we've got this amazing group of filmmakers who are just like so up for it and really understand the work the founders are doing. They're like deeply interested in it too. They're not just trying to think about how they can make the content pretty. They're thinking about how they can really tell the stories. Like with the founder introduction video, the editor went in and picked out the things he thought were most inspiring about the companies. Like that wasn't like us having to say like these are the messages we want to land. And so having editors and filmmakers who actually think that the work these founders are doing is like the coolest fucking thing really matters.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's so cool.
I think like the VC world is kind of swamped with like very, very beautiful things. Like really beautiful pieces of content, lovely offices, really nice merch. But actually, like what people really want is stories.
Yeah, and I think that's that. I feel like editors and VCs might have that disconnect, but if you have them in-house learning, or even just knowing exactly why they have been chosen to be part of Project Europe is like the biggest competitive advantage, I think, about finding the right people.
Yeah, and so you've done these 6. You said you're going to Stockholm later this year. Are you opening up the applications all over again? Are you kind of doing another push to get the next cohort, the next generation in?
So our applications are actually rolling, and so every co-work will have like new teams to join the mix. And for the first co-work, it felt really important that we could like begin to set the community vibe. And it was hilarious. I mean, Jade and I organised it. I think we had a 3-week lead time to organise it, because we're like, fuck it, we should bring them together. We did a kickoff night we spent the evening at David Helgeson's office, so founder of Unity, now partner at Transition Ventures, and we're in Soho. We should do something in Soho with the teams. And so I don't know if you've ever been to Freedom Bar. On Wednesday night they had this incredible drag show, and so we took all the founders to a drag show, which was like the perfect icebreaker. And I mean, they were getting rinsed for like one guy was sitting with his back to the stage doing maths in and genuinely yesterday morning, I was on a call with someone who I'd love to partner with for our next co-work, and I sent him the video before I shared it, just so I was like, this is the kind of thing we're doing. And he was like, oh, like my wife was really curious about why you chose to take the cohort to a strip club. And I was like, oh no, like it's actually far more wholesome than that. It was a drag bar. It was a very wholesome vibe. So we had to very quickly go in and edit out any footage that had any trace of a pole. That's to say, sorry, you asked me if applications are rolling when I told you a story about a drag club. But we're always on, always interviewing, always bringing new teams in. So we want to fit to the things that teams need at the right time, rather than like rather than like fitting them onto our timeline. And then we'll support them to fundraise as and when they want to fundraise. Each co-work will make a new launch video introducing the new teams that have joined in those 2 months. And so it's kind of like a ever evolving selection community, rather than just having like sprints, which makes my job so much more fun as well.
Yeah, I bet. I want to see the outtakes. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, we need to see like a Project Europe blooper reel.
We'll do a paywalled outtake.
These cracked young like entrepreneurs in the drag show.
ETS will be paying for that.
Yeah,
we will pay for that.
I can't tell you how much of a successful icebreaker it was. Everyone went in, and there was this moment where I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, like what have I done? This is the worst decision ever." And then, the show started. Like just actually having something to engage with. I kind of, like, Jade and I were discussing it. Like, well, even if it goes really badly, it becomes an iconic moment.
Yeah.
Like people like in like 5 years' time, people might be saying like, do you remember when like Kitty and Jade in their delusion thought that going to a drag club would be a good way to kick this off? And so we kind of decided it would be iconic either way, even if it was good, even if it was bad, even. But yeah, I'll send you some outtakes.
Love it. Right, look, I'm conscious we're out of time, Kitty, but thank you so much for coming on. Any news, any announcements? Do you ever want to come back? You're more than welcome. We would love to be able to cover as much of Project Europe as we can, and give the founders and the entrepreneurs the visibility and the platform to help them get to wherever they're going.
You guys are smashing it.
So
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thanks, Kitty. Awesome.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very, very, very cool indeed. That was drag show. Interesting. That's all about the story.
Yeah.
I also think
about
she's
that
the
story.
perfect person to be the CEO of Project Europe.
Yeah, she's like charisma from the screen is just insane. Like one of the
Yeah.
most engaging guests we've had on so far.
Yeah, Harry
Doing
High as well.
incredibly cool stuff.
And I wanted to ask her like how she got involved. You know, like how did?
Oh yeah,
She's been
that
in
would've
talent
good-
for years.
Yeah, she's been.
I had a question actually about the fact that she'd been in talent and like how has that evolved? Because I can't. Was she EF?
Yeah, it's like a talent investor. It's like there's a different name they use for like. I think it's just like.
She was an investor in her later stages at the company in terms of like.
Yeah, she moved into the.
But they're a talent because they do a similar thing, which is just finding people who don't have a business yet, but have an amazing background, right?
Yeah.
So
kind of coach.
I mean, they might be like so young that like they haven't yet found
Yeah.
that business or whatever. Yeah.
But I'd love to know like how did Harry have an application process? Did he reach out to a bunch of people?
I think it was completely.
How did she get?
I think he headhunted.
Her was she?
We got some stuff in
I
the
think
chat.
so.
Kitty is the best on the chat.
Let's go.
Agree.
Cheers,
Agree
Ray.
from
Yeah,
us.
great input.
With an exclamation mark,
Which is
We have Liam Fuller coming on. It's gonna be a good
nice.
chat.
Yeah. I think we're getting some. I'm just looking at our producer if we're good to go.
Are we good to go?
We're good
Liam,
to go.
can you hear
Liam,
us?
Yeah, I can.
We can hear you too.
Liam,
Yeah,
what's
we're good.
going on, man?
I've been busy.
I'm not
Of course,
surprised.
this guy has been busy. Absolute
you've become
mad moves.
Yeah, like a European Irish icon in the course of like a week. It feels like.
Yeah.
How's it been?
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing at the moment. I feel like it's. I'm very careful about the Stripe Brothers comparison.
Yeah, it's knocking around a lot. I've seen people saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, like I'm just trying to convert as much of this attention as possible into customers. Really, like that's kind of the main stress at the moment.
that.
But it's definitely a good stress. So,
Thinking like an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
That's good.
look at
yeah, I
that.
hope so.
Yeah. We just
Already.
had Kitty Mayo on, and she said that you're awesome.
Oh, so everyone was
I think
talking
it's
about
awesome.
you. She was in Ireland. She was at Dog Patch Labs and was saying everyone was talking about Liam. Liam was talk of the town.
I mean, Dublin's pretty small. To be fair. Like, I hope that's not the highlight of my career, being talked about in Dublin.
I'm sure it won't be.
Well, mate, we're going global now. Well, we're going European global anyway.
Yeah.
Wait, so tell us about it. Tell us about Source. What are you building? Give us the intro.
Yeah, so the idea of Source came from my previous company, Cartshare, and that was a Shopify app I basically started building this time last year. I started building a Shopify app, kind of was my first inning into trying to sell things to online retailers, and figured out that building something for the front end of an e-commerce retailer is really, really hard and very, very difficult to sell to. I mean, like Shopify apps are notoriously, they grow really fast and then they plateau very quickly after that. And I kind of realized that what I was building wasn't exactly, the amount of effort I was putting into Cartshare is the same amount of effort I would put into a business that would have a much higher opportunity. Source kind of came about from a conversation with a lot of Irish retailers. I kind of asked some questions about how they did a lot of these back office operations and how they managed like a physical retail store and their online retail store, especially over a large number of SKUs. And quickly I realized the way that they were buying their stuff or doing procurement for their stock was way different to the way that I bought like on Amazon. Right. So the default was Excel, email, and an ERP system from 10 years ago. Ooh. And this was the default purchasing experience for all of these buyers who are working at these companies for maybe $50 to $100 million worth of spend. Like that was like routinely something that came up over and over again. I thought like, wow, that's definitely a problem. I feel like I could do a better job of this. So I ended up building Source, and what Source does is it's an AI procurement tool that layers on top of all of their existing data, which is like their ERP system, their email inbox, their Excel spreadsheets, and basically means that a buyer doesn't have to tab out of like 7 different tabs to make a purchasing decision across 10,000 SKUs. They wake up every morning, they get a suggested order, and over time we help make those suggestions better with agentic AI. And yeah, that's what I'm working on at Source.
Awesome. I just have to ask before we get into this. What are you doing at the ages of sort of like 14 to 16 to get you into a realm where you can raise substantial amounts of money at your age?
I think I started with like national science competitions. That was my whole thing. I don't know if you guys did that when you were younger, but I certainly did. I did
not.
I was McCart playing football or something.
That's why we're interviewing you.
That's probably the thing that you should do at that age, to be fair. But anyway, I wanted to do national science competitions. Did that for a couple of years. I tried to build a robotic arm one year when I was around 14. That failed miserably. The next year I came back, and I think ChatGPT was maybe like a couple months old or something like that, and I built an AI voice assistant that would improve itself over time. It was a really like basic kind of initial use of RAG and that kind of thing, and that was quite impressive, and I got to represent Ireland globally in America, which was quite cool. And that was like a big thing for me because I thought I was great about myself until I went over to the US, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm really nothing here. So I came back to Dublin. The classmate I was working on that project with said, yeah, no way I'm doing startups, and I was like, I have to build a startup. I have to compete with these kids in the US. And then as soon as I arrived back in Dublin, I think I just turned 17, built CartShare, and then just kind of got properly into this, and I love it. Like I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
That's so cool. That is so cracked. I've been wanting to talk to you about this as soon as we mentioned you on the show last week when we covered that you'd raised the money. We knew we had to get you on straight away, but I didn't know until I saw the raise that I'd actually come across you before, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, with your post that went viral, your LinkedIn post of you running your previous company from your bathroom in school uniform. Literally, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the photo, but it is like, it's one of the coolest things I've seen. How do you run a company from a school, let alone a school toilet?
It's pretty painful, to be honest. It's not great. It's not like an ideal working conditions, to be honest. But no, like so after. Again, basically this time last year, started CartShare and was going really hard at it, and then we managed to get quite a bit of traction. So we managed to do some really interesting marketing. I know my previous co-founder in that company, he did a LinkedIn post where he went to the club in Dublin. He was a bit older than me, and he showed girls CartShare, the Shopify app, and it went viral on LinkedIn as well. That was like the first inning to like, oh my god, like there's some like serious, you can actually land meetings from this. By just doing outrageous shit on LinkedIn, really. So that was an inning into that, but genuinely, like, we got a bunch of traction. I think my co-founder actually got picked up by Shopify within 6 weeks of starting that company, which is just crazy.
Wow.
And then I went back to secondary school, so into I think it was my second last year of secondary school. Went back in, and it was like I just had this crazy summer, and then I was back to like in class.
Yeah, you couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, I was constantly just wired on my laptop the entire time. My laptop just kept getting taken off me over and over by basically every class. And like I would disappear probably every lunchtime into the bathroom just to work or try to take a call. And then one day I was just like, I just called my friend over. I was like, this would be really fucking funny. And he took a photo, and I think that was it. And that kind of led us to some more traction. And then that was kind of how it came about. But yeah, it's all true. Like, I genuinely took calls from my school bathroom for like months on end. So it was pretty intense.
No, we rate the hustle. It's cool.
So sick.
And tell us about the raise, right? So you raised, I read a bit about it. I think it was 1.4 million from Australian investors while you were on like a family holiday or something. But why don't you give us a bit more information? Like, how did you raise the money? Why did you decide that this was the time to raise? What are you going to use that money for?
Yeah, so fast forward probably 6-7 months after that famous post, I decided I was going to build Source. I kind of, the opportunity kind of arose from those conversations I had with those customers. I felt like there was some serious things that could be done here with a lot of these traditional businesses, and I feel like that's not where the AI research labs were focusing or any other startups were really focusing on. So I decided I wanted to put focus into that. I called up my co-founder, who I met on Discord probably 4 years ago. He's 25 now, and I think I was maybe 15 at the time. And he was going through college. He was doing online freelancing. I met him in a Discord channel. We became really good friends. I actually called him up probably January, February of this year. And I said, hey, like, look, do you want to work on this thing with me? I think there's some cool ideas here. Like, obviously, like, I think the ChatGPT's reasoning model came out 03, or like the early versions of their reasoning model. And I was like, there's some like serious opportunities here. And this general part of the economy, which is like a lot of these traditional SMEs and SMBs, is not going to be looked after. And I feel like we can win here. Called him up. He wanted to be part of it. And we decided, okay, look, well, in order for that to happen, we need to raise some money. So we started doing like an angel round. I got a couple of investors here in Dublin. Not much though. It was probably a few 10 grand checks. And then I had a family holiday coming up where I was going to see my grandparents. I hadn't seen them in a while. And I went over to Australia with my dad. I sent off a few cold emails, quite a few, to investors, other founders, but mainly just wanted to meet people while I was in the country. Met one guy called Brendan. Brendan is an angel investor in Sydney. He invested in another Liam, who was also 17, called Liam Millward 4 years ago. That company has now been valued at 150 million Australian dollars, and he's 21 years old.
Wow.
And that was enough to get the first initial meeting. He invested on the spot when I arrived in Sydney, and then he introduced me to all his friends. Some of his friends wanted to join in, some of them didn't. But then I kind of quickly realized, like, look, does it make sense to raise more money? Yes, because we can move faster, and there's actually quite a lot of things we need to build here. Initially, I thought it'd be way more simple than it actually was. It's quite complex. And talked to a couple of VCs in Australia. Most of them said no. And then towards the end of the holiday, I just emailed a guy called Paul, who made the first decacorn in Australia, called Seek.com. He owns SquarePeg, one of the largest funds there, if not the largest. And I emailed him asking for some advice on a seed round. How would that look like? Because I'd raised a couple $100 grand at this stage. Met up with him in Sydney. I asked him to angel invest at the end of this advice conversation, and he said no. And then I was like, why? And he's like, I only invest through the fund. And I was like, all right, that's no problem. But he said, maybe we can make something work in quite like a mysterious way. And then 2 days later, I was in an IC meeting. And then 20 minutes after the IC meeting, I got an offer of $1 million. So it was pretty, yeah.
That's a great story. I presume have you had a lot of VC inbound, like since
Funny enough.
Yeah.
It's what tends to happen, I guess.
Yeah. They all follow.
It's so sick.
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane.
It's an amazing story. And it feels like you've got so much momentum. And you mentioned that you're trying to turn this momentum into real customers. I guess like my question is like, what's going on right now? Are you moving to San Francisco? Are you staying where you are? Are you reaching out to customers? Are you trying to sell right now? Like what's going on like right now?
Is your co-founder in Paris as well?
Yeah, so he's French. So he grew up here. He lives here. So yeah, I've just basically moved out of home from my mom, where I was living with my mom, and now I live in Paris. So that's quite nice. But I'm living here and working here, living quite close to my co-founder. And at the moment, we're like really in build mode. We have pilots across the UK and Ireland that are doing pretty well. There's quite high usage. We've kind of started to properly validate our core assumptions that we had when we originally raised the money. And like our goal now is to try to get US pilots. And we've got, I think today we got another one, which was great. So we've got 2 there, which is awesome. And now we're just trying to build as fast as possible to fulfill those pilots and figure out how we're going to distribute over there as well. So in the next couple of months, I've just actually applied for my O1 visa. So fingers crossed it gets approved. Hope so. I think so. And I'll be moving over there. It's probably spending some time in New York, between New York and San Francisco, over the next couple of months. I feel like that's important to be close to the technology, and where like it's super clear that this like reasoning models, if not like a version of like the transformer architecture will be used with another architecture, will continuously make these LLMs better. And I just want to be close to that, so I can kind of have a massive advantage over the people who are already in my space, who are like 20 or 30 years older than me. I just don't have the same exposure to these new technological changes, so I can win in my this slither of the economy, I guess. So it's class.
And how are you thinking about the money that you've raised? So you've raised 1.4 million. We speak to a lot of investors and founders who talk about building their team, building their product in Europe, but then building a GTM team and a sales team out in the US to sell to US customers. How are you thinking about it?
I'm definitely not Mark Zuckerberg, so I probably am not, like, I don't have the capacity to compete with talent in San Francisco, unfortunately. So, I mean, look, the engineering team will most likely be sourced mainly across Europe and Paris for the time being. We have a founding engineer in the company at the moment, which is great. That's been very useful. And we're going to figure out sales and go to market in the US as quick as possible, and I'll be leading that. So I'll be going over first with my co-founder to follow shortly after. But I feel like just kind of the way things are in the world at the moment, that going to San Francisco and trying to compete even for sales talent over there is just like really, really hard. But it's actually quite an untapped, even in Paris, there's actually some quite untapped engineering and research and engineering talent as well.
You mentioned that you'll kind of be leading the go-to-market function as well as the responsibilities. How we're seeing a lot of whether it's sort of B2C, it used to be sort of B2C only, but now it's kind of B2C and B2B as well. These sort of viral events, these viral clips, these viral whatever it is, like people are realizing more and more and more that like virality can be like a really good distribution measure. You already know that. You've been doing that since you were super young. Like, are you going to try and work that into what you're doing in the future as well, like for this product?
Yeah, I think for whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to try weave that in as much as possible. Like, I'm in a very traditional industry. Like these my kind of customers read the newspaper still, which is totally wrong.
Boo.
They're not on X or LinkedIn.
They're definitely not on X. Definitely. So, like, I think the viral components of what I will do is I think building a personal brand is super important regardless of what you do. But for my kind of customers, I think it's a very careful balance. I've always tried to keep a very careful balance between virality and just being outright outrageous and obnoxious. And I feel like people can go one way over the other. So I try to like you know what I mean? Like even during that post with the bathroom post, I kind of was super careful about that because, that could go, you don't want to show a sign of immaturity and you want to fulfill customers, because what ultimately matters is getting to revenue and building something that can scale and you can actually distribute and have a valuable company. It's not about the clout necessarily, but the clout can definitely help you build your own personal presence and personal brand. And in some cases, in some situations, like Clearly, for example, you can do outrageous marketing and actually get revenue from it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go viral at the cost of my reputation. Let's just say.
Yeah, fair enough.
Super switched on.
Yeah, we can't be expecting to see like Clio 2.0 from you.
What do you think about that? Like we were saying earlier, I think that they're slowly just going to die. Like there's just going to be, they can keep going viral, but like, I mean, I've not seen a demo of their product yet. I've not seen a single like user interface or single demo of their product yet. I've only seen them, like, to be honest, they look like they're having an absolutely sick time. Don't get me wrong, like, looks super fun, and they're raising from A16, which is really cool. Yeah. But like, what are your thoughts on them long term?
I mean, I think their marketing is obviously genius. Like it's very very smart. They've got distribution. I mean, like, I don't know. I honestly think it's a glorified like Google Meet note taker, to be honest. Like I've used it. Like I've actually tried to use a Clearly product, and I used it for like 20 seconds, and then stopped using it just because it wasn't really useful. Maybe for some people it is. I don't know. I feel like the founders of that company will definitely come out okay in the end. I just don't know like how much further you can go by just like sinking your personal reputation, what you personally do, into the ground over and over again, and how that's sustainable. I don't know, but I'm sure they'll come out fine in the end. But I don't think the company. I probably agree with you. The company. I don't know. It's very very hard to tell. And it's like my second time doing this, so I can't say much either, to be honest.
A lot more than any of us, I guess.
But it's interesting. Cool. You need both distribute, that they've done an amazing job on distribution, but you do also need the product to back it up. And I guess that's still yet to be confirmed whether that product has real legs.
Yeah, well, I mean, just distribution alone will get you so far. I'll get you 5 million ARR.
Yeah,
apparently.
5 million ARR already.
It's mental.
But Liam, we're conscious we've taken your time. But thank you so much for joining us. We've absolutely loved having you.
Yeah.
We're going to be following your journey very closely, and if there's anything that you ever want to talk about, announce, you want to come back on the show,
Please come back on.
You're always more than welcome. And you saw my post about you on LinkedIn, so if there's anything like that,
however we can help.
I appreciate that, by the way. That was very good. That did really well. That was a good one.
I think it got 250,000 impressions. So
Oof.
did well for me.
A little flex there.
More
Did well for
customers
me. So yeah. No,
So good.
I would love to chat again. So please do come back.
Yeah, great to meet you, Liam.
Best of luck.
You're a legend.
Thanks, Liam.
See you later, guys.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Very, very, very cool.
Awesome. He's going to be big.
Absolute killer.
Yeah,
Absolute killer.
For sure.
What do we have on our?
Wow, some serious builders in Europe right now. This is awesome.
And it's been such a week or couple of weeks of like big unicorn rounds, but also Project Europe, Liam, incredibly young founders doing crazy stuff.
And we're in the middle of it, which is awesome. And people are coming to us to come on the show. So if you've got anything to announce, anything that you're doing that you think should be voiced on ETS Live, hit us up.
And also, if you want to find people like Liam, people are thinking, how do I get me a Liam? How do I get in that early? Well, the way to get yourself a Liam is be the reason your phone wins the deal of the decade. It's trispector.com. Go there, download it, and harness the power of live data and AI-driven analysis to outsmart the competition and make confident decisions in private markets.
We love to hear it.
Boom.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
Thank you very much.